Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Joseph Pizarro, Samson, Maris, Mobile Mac 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, and David Wayne Foster. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I'll hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
To Ripley's in Pigeon Forge, or no, Gatlinburg.
Well, he's been wanting to go to the Atlanta Aquarium for years because they got that whale shark there. But you say Tennessee has a good aquarium?
Well, Ripley's, it's one of those that you walk underneath. It's in Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
Yeah. This was the same thing in the Georgia one. They were walking underneath. They were enclosed.
Of course they were enclosed. They had to have air pressure for people to breathe.
Exactly. They were in the dome. They were in the firmament. That's a good illustration
I've
I
seen
got.
pictures of those. Those are pretty cool. They look like a flat Earth living in a dome.
Hey, years ago, there was this guy, he's like a Southern guy, YouTuber guy, and he made a video with his son. He made like a small demonstration of it with like a bowl and a cup. I wish I could remember the video, but he put it in the water and there was nothing getting in. No water getting in because he was trying to say that sky is water, inside the stars. He believes it's water above, like the Bible says. It's very cool.
I would not even venture to guess what it is up there.
Well, that's what the Bible says. I mean, if you look at everything. But he was showing you like a little demonstration of it. I don't know how he did it.
Well, yeah, like I know what the Bible says about it. It's just interpreting what someone else wrote. I don't want to do that.
I don't see any issue with this, right? You can take it completely literally. So what water is, in this case, water's above. What are the waters above you? In most literal terms, what are the waters above?
Water. That's how the earth was flooded. It said he opened the windows of heaven.
It exists in more than one state, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know what you're getting at.
I'm going to bet a pound you don't.
Interpretation too.
I'm going to bet a pound Neil doesn't. What waters are above then, Neil?
Talking about the skies, talking about mist, the rain. I understand.
Okay, I owe you a quid.
You guys just don't take the Bible literally. And if you read it carefully, it shows you. He opened the windows of heaven to flood the earth, and there was not mist coming down. It was gushing water.
Right.
Now those windows are closed.
Okay. But nonetheless, we do have very literal waters above us without any stretch of the imagination required.
Agreed.
Right. And when you talk about a massive flood, I've been in one. I know what it's like. Lots of rain comes down.
It didn't only come from above; it came from all over. It came
Yeah.
from underneath the earth as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. Yeah, I've been in a flood. That's exactly how I'd describe it. Terrifying. So going to rescue my girlfriend at the time, who was in Stroud, and to get to her, I had to go through a flood zone. And it was terrifying because the water's coming at you from every direction. So you're on a road in a car, and then what was a road suddenly becomes a river. And then you veer off, you go on a different route, and then suddenly you're faced with a ford, you're faced with a river crossing you at 90 degrees. This is while rain's coming down from all directions and seemingly coming up from the ground around you. So it seems like all around you, the water's coming up. So literally, I can describe it very much in those terms. The water seems to be coming from every direction, and it is quite scary. Probably the second most scary thing I've ever experienced after falling from the sky in an aeroplane and everyone around me screaming their heads off. That was probably the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced. But they were pretty close to each other. But driving through as a flood ensued was terrifying.
There's also the
Nathan.
water table. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There was never rain before, so that's the only thing different about that. You were in a flood. I'm not going to say you weren't, but you weren't in the flood. That was catastrophic. Now, where were you? Where were you, vacationing or something when this happened?
No, I was just at home. I was driving to get my girlfriend who'd got trapped in a flood. So she was a new-ish driver at the time, and she just got herself stuck. As soon as the flood hit, she got stuck immediately. I was like, right, I'll come out and rescue you. And then I reached a point where I couldn't get past all the cars. Everyone had just stopped, and you couldn't go any further. And by the time I got back in touch with her, it was before I had a mobile phone. This is a long time ago. I got back, and I think she had a mobile phone. I phoned her on my landline, and she said, yeah, somebody came and dragged the car up onto their higher ground bit of hill, and I'll just stay here till the flood clears. And she stayed with some strangers that rescued her.
The funny thing with water is it's unassuming, like in one of those, what do you call those things? The what's that happens? That happened in oh, come on. The tsunami. It doesn't look, if you're watching it on TV, it doesn't look like anything. It just looks like water's going nice, but if you're in it, it's tearing you apart.
Most powerful force in nature.
Agreed, because it could put out fire.
But it can't ever be fully contained either. Like dams will eventually give way to it. Everything gives way to water.
You know what I'm saying, though, right? When you see the footage of a tsunami, it really doesn't
Put on that
much.
first layer.
Something old. Can you pop yourself on mute?
Ain't getting no waterproof today, but he forgot about the putting on tank bed. Yeah.
Hello?
He had a broken mic, Nathan. Gold,
Hello?
something gold. Yeah. You got to, we didn't hear you.
Oh.
Hello? Can you hear us?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you've got your mic wide open, disrupting everything.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I don't
okay.
know how it keeps doing that.
That's okay. Thank you. Sorry, father of a stolen child.
It's all right. I disrupt things anyway.
We'll go here. My 2-year-old burst in the door just as I was saying that last statement, whatever it was about. I can't remember.
I hear there's a fundraiser going on.
That's
Oh yeah,
amazing.
I started a GoFundMe for send a flurf into space, and then whenever it reaches its amount, I'll just offer whoever wins the prize a plane ticket to wherever they want to go.
Speaking of GoFundMe's, I finished off my room treatment. I've still got 200 quid's worth of debt for the very, very last 2 panels, but I have actually finished it. Of course, I move immediately on to the next thing, which is buying a new mic, because the mic I've got now irritates me greatly, gets in the way. Anyway, so I'm looking at new mics, and I bought a new wire because it's about as much as I can afford. I bought the wire for it. I was like, yeah, I'll splash out. So I bought this wire. Just grab it. And having worked in audio, when I was working on domestic audio, they made all their profit from cables, and it was an unregulated industry, and they would charge an absolute ton for bits of wire in hi-fi, domestic hi-fi. Move over to professional hi-fi, and I got this cable made, custom length, with the exact plugs I wanted, with the plugs at a very specific orientation, totally unique. Cost £20. It's like peanuts. Completely custom, the length I want, the best plugs you can get. Yeah, I was like, 20 quid. Man, there's a massive difference between pro audio and domestic audio. I mean, I knew that when I was selling to studios, but I just, doing it myself, actually, producing stuff, you actually get right into the thick of it rather than just selling my specific product into a studio. I'm actually buying random cables, which is certainly not something I was doing when I was a rep. But 20 quid, man, and when I see the reviews, it's totally different. So in hi-fi, they'll review a cable, and it might be £100, it might be £1,000, it might be £20,000. Ludicrous money, right? Yet in pro audio, they're like, should you spend the extra on a £50 cable versus a £5 cable? That's like, I don't know. Just a totally different world. Anyway. As you were
So
mentioning.
your room's completely done now?
Yeah, I put out a video about it. I did it before and after, so I just went back to a show prior to having any treatment in it from about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. I can't remember how long. Just the first one I found. And just put it side by side with the intro, as I say the same thing every single time. And there's a massive difference. But originally, the thing that sparked it was because I wanted to get a better mic. Like all people, you start doing it professionally or for a living, and then you're like, okay, I want it to sound better, I'll buy a new mic. And then you very quickly realise, no, that's not a good idea in an untreated room. In fact, it's a bad idea. So I'm like, okay. So they all said the same thing. Don't worry about the mic. Get the room treated. That will make a much bigger improvement. But then when you do, you're like, now I know all the limitations of the mic, which is the original thing I wanted to change anyway, having dropped it a couple of times. And, basically it's had a hard life with kids around and stuff. But it's worn out. It's getting to the end of its life. And before it breaks, I want to replace it with something really, really good. So I'm just saving my pennies. And I've bought wire for 20 quid. Means I can spend hours looking at YouTube videos about microphones. Happy days in my element.
Well, isn't that what you went to school for? Well, maybe not that particularly, but within that field.
No, it was that. I did sound engineering. So I started off on performing arts, and without being mean to any homosexuals out there, it was very, very gay. And it just didn't agree with me. So I transitioned to the sound engineering side of the course. So lighting and sound, I should say. Technical theatre is actually the title. But I transitioned from performing arts to technical theatre halfway through the course because of how incestuous and gay. I mean, it should be obvious that's how performing arts is, right? Lovies. But it kind of drove me nuts listening to people singing in hallways, and I couldn't cope with it. It literally sent me nuts. So I'm like, oh, I want to film stuff and light stuff. I've changed my mind. I don't want to do this. I only did it because I got an award.
Part of the culture, isn't it?
Say again?
It's a big part of the culture, isn't it?
Well, I didn't know that. So I did very well at high school in performing arts or drama, and I got given an award by the mayor, gave me an outstanding achievement award in drama. I'm like, well, obviously that's what I'm deemed to do then, right? I'll do a course in performing arts. Obviously, you get your A star, you get your mayor giving you your award. You're like, that's obviously the route I'm going to take, right? And I very quickly realised, no, probably not for the best. Don't get me wrong, I did a lot of the performing arts classes, but I changed. I was like, no, I want to film stuff. I want to learn about mics and sound and desks. And that ended up being my career as opposed to performing arts. But now I'm mixing the two. This couldn't be any more ideal in terms of what I actually went to college for. Doing both, technically speaking.
Hello.
Hello. 2 more minutes in case you think I'm about to start. I'm not.
Afternoon, guys.
Hey, Adam. Oh, sorry, didn't spot you.
What's the simplest advice you could give as far as someone looking for good quality speakers for a hi-fi system?
Any? I don't know what you mean. Any?
I've just got this image, Nave, of you scurrying down the hallway as somebody breaks into a little bit of West Side Story. And
Yeah,
prompts you.
that's exactly what. Yeah, you've got that pretty accurate. Bloody lovies.
Sorry to interrupt. Sorry.
But that's where I ended up making friends. You know, I did the technical course and ended up making friends that I liked, that I didn't want to punch in the face with every song they broke out into. That said, I've got time to say this now, but not. Welcome. Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by 10th Man, Neil, Adam, who else we got? Father of a Soul and Child, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Hello, hello.
If I were a rich man.
Very enthusiastic mumbling. Excellent stuff.
It's breaking into impromptu song.
Oh, I see you're trying to trigger my lovey emotions from back in my college days or something.
Yeah.
But on the other hand,
there was a lot of sex in performing arts school. I'm not going to lie. That was a bonus. Moving
you're
on.
just acting.
No, I'm just definitely not lying about that.
A lot of shagging.
Anyway, let's move on.
Was any of it hetero, Nathan?
It was all hetero for me. Thank you very much, Arwin. I'm nice that you would inquire of such things.
Okay.
Alwyn.
Just checking.
Checking
That's
for your own
terrible, Alwyn.
fantasy. Right. If you want to picture me that way, you're welcome to, Arwin.
No. I'm just assisting other people in that.
Doth protest a little too much, I feel, Arwin. Anyway, let's move on with housekeeping. Any evidence of a physical, geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature?
Not from Nottingham.
Not from Leamington?
It's pretty sad. They're supposed to have curvature and we can't find it.
Well, you can't get up high enough to see it.
See what?
The curvature.
Well, you don't need to. The math on the radius says that 1 foot high should start at 1.22 miles.
Exactly. There is no seeing curvature.
This doesn't
Nathan,
take
I have a question for you.
refraction into account,
Hold on.
though.
Just 1 second, Darwin. Slave of Christ. Go ahead.
Hi, how's it going, man? I'm happy to be here. I do have a question. So the pressure gradient, right? So globers always talk about how the higher up you go, there's less air pressure. Is that caused by some sort of, downward pull, or is that caused by, like air pressure, like the heat of the sun?
You're asking how the gases are produced in the first place, or how we have a pressure gradient?
No, not they're produced. Like, is there a pressure gradient? Does that actually exist?
Yeah, there's definitely a pressure gradient. There's less pressure as you go up high. So if you got to the top of Everest, there's considerably less pressure.
What's the cause of that pressure? Is it the temperature? Is it because it's colder at the top of the mountain, therefore there's less molecules bouncing around?
There's just no got being produced up there, or very, very little. If you imagine how much gas-producing vegetation there is at the top of Everest, there's virtually none, right? Might be the odd tree a bit lower down, but there's very little to actually produce any of these gases in the first place.
Okay.
So in order for them to be there, they've had to be produced at ground level and then expand up to that level. So they've made their way up from ground level. But obviously, given that they're all produced at ground level to begin with, the concentration is going to be higher down low.
Okay, so if I hypothetical, if I take a chamber, like a 100-foot tall chamber, is there going to be more air pressure at the bottom of the chamber than at the top?
Probably not.
Probably not. So it's going to equalize.
I would have said so.
Oh, okay.
Not
do.
big-
And then
not
my
very
next
big.
question is like, oh, sorry, good.
I was just going to say it's just not a very big space. Now, when you're talking about going up hundreds of kilometres potentially, then yeah, it gets much, much, much thinner.
I think when
Okay, so
when we're looking at air pressure and stuff like that, and over these verifiable heights where we're talking up to Everest and that, then I think humidity or the water content has a much, much bigger role than is probably stated in terms of contributing to the air pressure. It's within that phase transition boundaries where the amount of water diminishes, and I think that has an underestimated role in terms of creation of the gradient over the first few thousand feet, 10,000 feet, etc. It's, I think, probably more involved.
So I debate globetards a lot, and they always tell me this, like there's a lower air pressure at the top, and I always assumed like mainstream science always teaches us that it's because of gravity, that there's a lesser gravitational pull at the higher levels of the atmosphere. But I always question this: is this actually true? Right? If there is
I'd
a
question
actual
that
pressure.
statement of the top, dude. The way they've led you at the top, they're making a positive claim that there's a top. Now, as far as I'm aware, that's not been shown other than their claim of a vacuum of space. It's not verified very well, though. It's not documented. We can go to Everest and check it, but all we've got in terms of stratospheres, thermospheres, exospheres, all those is just references, isn't it? Numbers.
Do you want to know the overcome to this argument, the quick overcome, when they start asking about gas pressure gradients? The quick rebuttal is to say, where did you get the gas pressure from in the first place? So they're asking you about a delta of gas pressure, and presumably you're on that conversation because either you or the subject has come up in regards to how can you have gas pressure without a container. So that's the question we pose at the very least. So given that we pose that question, I'm not so sure about you, I'm sure you'll tell me in a minute. When they start detailing a delta of gas pressure, a gas pressure gradient, you've got to have the gas pressure in the first place. Now, the reason we ask how you can have gas pressure without a container is because their assertion, their positive claim, is that we have gas pressure without any containment. So they sidestep your question by saying, well, if I assume I've got gas pressure and then push it into a delta of that, which is a gradient, and then ask you to explain the gradient, we sidestep the fact that we've got gas pressure here with an availability of volume, that would be a space that they believe in, called space, outer space, a sky vacuum, with the gas not filling it in line with entropy law. So the question when they ask you about deltas of gas pressure is, where'd you get the gas pressure in the first place exactly? Given that you have a sky as a vacuum. We wouldn't have any gas. To make any examples, we wouldn't have a gas pressure gradient, we wouldn't have any gas at all if the sky was a vacuum. So it's just their way of sidestepping the actual problem that they have, which they can't achieve gas pressure in the first place in the heliocentric model.
But Nathan, we all know the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the atmosphere.
That's correct, because atmosphere is an oxymoron that is only applicable in their model. So on screen, we've got a picture of atmosphere. Sphere-shaped air. Well, air doesn't take the shape of a sphere. It fills the availability of volume it has to fill. Now, in the picture on screen, all of the black area would be the space that this gas has to fill. Now, they're saying, oh no, it just arbitrarily goes into the shape of the sphere it's around. No, that's not what gas does. You're never going to show me a marble in a vacuum with gas clinging to it. It's not possible. The gas will just fill the space. It expands in all directions. All of this gas wants to expand out in all directions. That's all it wants to do. Making this area fake. It doesn't exist. It's not real. It violates natural law. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so my question ultimately is is it safe to say that, like, if I have a chamber of gas, can I say that the pressure is completely equal in that gas if the temperature is all the same? Is it safe to say that, or is that contradictory to what we believe?
No, it will eventually reach an equilibrium if you've just got a container with no extraneous stuff going on. It's just going to equalise.
Even if I expanded it to the shape of the Earth, like I take the whole Earth and there is no temperature changes, there is no strange things going on, is the gas pressure at the very bottom always is going to be the exact same as the top as well? Is that a property of gases?
Can I address that a bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
We talk about it being a dynamic system. It is, but there are certain truths that hold true, and one of those is air pressure and altitude. The two are intrinsically linked. Yeah, so you can take the air pressure and say what your altitude is. You can say calculate what the air pressure will be from your altitude. They are interchangeable, and that constant seems to apply all over the plane within very small parameters. But that does seem to be a part of the gradient. Seems to be stable within the dynamic system, which itself I can't attribute cause, just it's noted. But that in of itself wouldn't fit with the vacuum being at the top.
Can I claim
suggesting that temperature is intrinsic to the whole gradient as well?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I think he's trying to suggest that temperature is intrinsic to this gradient as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to claim.
A vary in temperature with altitude, then there wouldn't be a variation in pressure.
Yeah, if there was no, if the temperature was all equal, would we have no gradient? Would it be completely like homogeneous?
Can't know that.
How can you answer that? Yeah.
Well, you can. I mean, yeah, in a hypothetical scenario with nothing changing, with no sun and moon coming out and no cycles going on, and you had a container that happened to be the size of what they claim a sphere Earth would be, would it eventually reach equilibrium if all things were equal? Well, yeah, it would eventually reach equilibrium. The gas would just bounce around indefinitely at the same pressure. But that is definitely not the number one. The heliocentric world doesn't have a container the size of the Earth. It's just got gas next to a vacuum not expanding.
Okay, Oh, thank you for answering my question. This fixed the big problem that I had because I couldn't answer the question of why there was, lower air pressure at the higher tops of the mountain. So what I learned before was it was because of it's hotter at the ground level, and if it's hotter, there's more air bouncing around that would increase the pressure at the ground level.
Not really. It's more that the gases are produced at ground level. The easiest one to reference is the water cycle. Also, in so doing, you highlight the cyclical nature, the fact that it's a dynamic system in a cycle, if you use the water cycle as an example. So the gas is created at ground level and makes its way up. Just that simple. Well, obviously, if there's a high concentration of gas at the production point, it's going to get lower as it spreads out to fill the availability of volume. Now, it doesn't reach equilibrium, it cycles back down again as rain.
Oh, okay.
Right, and
All right.
also there's the temperature influence, which is pretty much all at ground level. That's where the heat comes
Yeah,
in.
I think temperature is a good explanation for the gradient.
Okay, so it's technically both. It's the gases being produced and the temperature, right?
Well, you could describe that as a cause of the gas production in the first place in the case of the water cycle. The water gets heated up when the sun comes out, so you could directly ascribe that as the cause. But you're ascribing a cause of entropy in terms of what's causing an entropy increase, as opposed to the cause of entropy. So you're saying in this instance, the sun is an entropy generator. Well, yeah, that's true. It's not saying that the sun is the cause of entropy, though, just to make that clear. I know you didn't ask, but just don't want any comments about it. Did you say the sun causes entropy? Well, no, the sun can cause an entropy increase, just to get that clear.
Yeah, thanks for answering my question. I appreciate it.
Pleasure. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Absolutely not.
No.
We made that up, Nathan. We made
There's
it
a
up
lot
as
of things.
flat earthers.
Yeah, there's a lot of things we're told we make up. Entropy. Made that up. Begging the question? Made it up.
No, we figured it out.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
What is the sun?
A black body.
Can we have a distance to the sun?
60%
Can we find
black.
out
I
what it
find
is
that
first?
quite offensive.
Nathan, can I ask you about the ether?
What's ether?
The background medium
Oh
of like
my
where light is
God, here
produced.
we go.
Sorry, background medium?
The
What?
ether.
Yeah, the ether.
What does this
Do you know anything
medium,
about it or no?
What does this medium consist of?
It's just like the universal background. It's like light's not like a particle. It's actually a propagation through the ether. Do you know what that is?
Says who?
Oh, that's
Oh,
an
yeah.
ether.
Hold on, Arwin. Bloody hell.
Quantum field.
Oh, yeah, it's like the universal background of everything.
The quantum field. You may as well
Yes,
just
yeah.
say
Hello,
quantum
says
field.
who? Who's saying that there's a background field called ether that you need light to
Michelson-Morley.
propagate through? Michelson-Morley? All right.
Yeah.
With what?
The experiment. I forget what the experiment was called. I was just wondering if you knew anything about it because I had a couple
Michelson-Morley
questions about
experiment?
it. Yeah.
You tell me. How does this prove there's a background medium?
So basically, they were trying to measure. It was called the ether wind, right? If they were, they had like a light panel, and they were trying to measure if they moved, if they shot waves through the panel and they also moved the panel, would it contract the wavelengths, right? So what Einstein tried to do is he tried to explain this away. He says this was time dilation. The light waves arrived later, right? And this is basically where the theory of relativity came from, special relativity, right? It was to explain the way this experiment, right? But what was actually going on is it was experienced ether wind. The light was moving through the background medium, and the wave was contracting, right? So the reason why they said this was contracting is obviously because the time dilation, but and the reason why this apparently debunked the ether was because their claim
Guys,
they were assuming
who's
that
doing that? Hold on a second, my friend. Hold on. Who's doing that? Who's opening their mic and just making loud noises from G+? It's really irritating. Go ahead, my friend.
Okay, so basically, their claim was that the Earth was already spinning. That means we should always experience an ether wind, right? So this, they said that the experiment was debunked, therefore there is no ether, right? So now they brought up the idea that light is a wave and a particle, and since light is a particle, it has to be affected by gravity. And this would explain, and the speed of light, right? They
Okay,
would
there's a lot.
explain away, why the planets are millions of miles away.
Okay,
It's
there's
because
quite
the
a lot to
light waves are.
digest. Hold on. Get too much to digest.
Ugh.
So, what's ether?
It's the universal background. Since
Yeah,
light is
you
a
said that. You
so
said
a
that.
wave.
Yeah,
Sorry,
we've
go
had
ahead.
all this. Okay, if you're just going to repeat what you've said, fine. I'll start taking it apart. No problem. Yeah, okay. So, do you understand the difference between science and experiment and pseudoscience and just so stories?
Mhm. Yeah, I agree.
Agree? It wasn't an agree or disagree question.
No, I know what the difference is. Yeah.
Okay, what's the difference?
Science is observable, repeatable, and provable. Pseudoscience is none of those.
Observable what?
Observable, provable, and repeatable.
So, if I observe the speaker in front of me, and then I close my eyes, and then I open them, and then it's there again, is that a scientific experiment then? Because it's repeatable and observable. So that would make it science, right? By that standard?
Mm-hmm.
No. Most definitely not. So do you want to try again? You don't know what science is.
What do you mean?
I mean, you've got it wrong.
Okay, so what are you trying to get at then?
I'm trying to say that you're trying to explain away and argue within narratives of pseudoscience that aren't explaining things with science, but you're ascribing these terms like experiment to the Michelson-Morley contraption.
Mm-hmm.
You've also reified a probability distribution derivation into wavelength into something that actually requires a medium to propagate through. So, no, light definitely is not a wave, but you've reified this derivation of wave function into wavelength and then decided that it is actually a physical wave. It isn't. That's wrong. But let's start with the Michelson and Morley ether nonsense first. So, based on the notion that light is a wave, it would require a medium to propagate through. Light isn't a wave, and it doesn't require a medium to propagate through. There is no.
So what is it?
There is no ether necessity for light to propagate through. That's just not needed.
So what is light then?
Okay.
I don't know. It's a very
Can
good
I
question.
also put something, Nathan?
Go ahead.
Because I thought it was also very odd that it would be suggested that this assumed wave medium, like how can you have a wind of the medium of light when it's just a medium? Isn't it a wind of light? Is it a wind of just the whole thing was so convoluted. I don't even understand what is claimed.
Sure, but it all starts with an assumption that's incorrect in terms of the derivation from probability distribution, mathematics, to wavelengths, to actual waves. That's what his journey's taken him along. And then with that assumption in mind, which is incorrect, a necessity for a medium for the light, which is a wave in his idea of what light is, to propagate through. That isn't the case. There is no need for an ether. It is not required. And the validity offered for ether is the Michelson-Morley quote experiment. That's where we're at so far, Arwin. I was hoping to next go through why it's not an experiment with this chap, because it's useful to know. Arwin, did you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I agree. I was just really puzzled because it seems discontorted even within the presuppositional formulation of it.
Oh, it's a total clusterfuck. Don't get me wrong. No offence, my friend. Calling it a nonsense is going to hopefully become clear why in a minute. So, your apprehensions about what science are. Science is just a method, and the method has a very specific purpose. It's to establish the cause of an effect. Now, an effect, in scientific terms, is a phenomena. Now, it has to be natural, because if it's not natural, it's synthetic or man-made, and you already know the cause of that, and man made it. So science is exclusively interested in natural phenomena. Science deals with the physical, physics, and natural world. Yeah. So natural phenomena, effects, is what science studies. You with me so far?
Yes.
Okay. So that's the first question you need to ask yourself if something's claimed to be science or an experiment. We'll get to that later. But in this case, it's claimed to be an experiment. Well, an experiment is the actualization of a hypothesis. And all a hypothesis is what I described science as being, establishment of cause and effect. So all a hypothesis is what you think the cause of the effect you're studying is. That's all a hypothesis is. It's really simple. It does have a slight complication in it has something that makes science empirical, a null, the opposite of what you think the cause of the effect will be. So if you think A causes B, a null is A doesn't cause B. Yeah? That's a null hypothesis, but that's an aside. For now, all you need to know is that science is studying phenomena, things that happen in nature, and all a hypothesis is what you think causes the phenomena. That's it. That's all a hypothesis is. So when we come to that knowledge established with you now, hopefully, I'm not going to ask you to nod along. Ask yourself this. In Michelson and Morley, the experiment that is, in quotes, what's the phenomena that they are studying for it to be an experiment? So I'll ask you, what's the studied phenomena?
They're studying how light works.
So not ether then.
Well, no. So the experiment apparently proved the ether.
But you just said that the... Sorry. No. Just the cause and the effect. That's all that science has in the hypothesis. Not extraneous stuff. All that is held constant. So all you're looking at is the effect. What are you studying? You've said light. So we're studying light. And we're going to figure out cause of certain aspects of light. Yeah? Now, unless you're going to say the cause is ether, is that the case?
I would say for the drift, yeah.
Perfect.
For the contraction of the wavelength.
Okay,
yeah.
so we seem to have a hypothesis, right? If ether, then ether drag, I think is the term.
Yeah, your ether wind.
Okay. So we've gone from light to ether wind. So what we're doing is we're changing the phenomena now. You said it was light. Now you're saying the phenomena is ether wind. Now, is that going to be the cause of the effect? Because if so, the next thing we need to do to establish it is actually causing the effect. Effect being light in this instance, a behavior of light. But then you need to actually vary the thing you cause the effect with in your hypothesis. So in this instance, if you're saying this effect of light witnessed as a phenomena apparently in this man-made gizmo, I'm not sure where this is happening in nature, but we'll come to that later. But the light that's happening in this man-made gizmo is apparently caused by ether wind. So how do you vary that which you assume causes the effect? How do you manipulate it to show it does cause it? How do you manipulate ether?
Okay, so we have two light panels, and one is stationary and one is moving. The one that is moving is experiencing a wave contraction. Therefore, that would be the ether wind.
Sorry, and you're varying the ether wind when you're describing little pieces of metal. You're not varying that which you can assume is your effect in this instance, and the effect isn't a natural phenomena. So you're not varying ether. Yeah? You're saying I'm varying the contracting light as I spin a wheel? Well,
the ether is the explanation.
That's not varying ether, though, is it?
No, it's not varying the ether. It's varying.
Right. So in an experiment, all you're trying to do is establish the cause of the effect. What you vary can be validated or invalidated as the cause. And when you say, no, I'm not varying that which I assume causes the effect, do you see how this isn't science? And the effect is a man-made device, isn't natural. Again, this isn't science. This is most definitely pseudoscience. Creating an effect within a machine and then supposing that something you are not varying, that would be ether, is the cause in some instance. You're not varying it. You're varying how something moves on a dolly. And
So
you're not got a natural
for the wave
phenomena.
contraction?
Pardon?
What's the explanation for the wave contraction then?
Where do we observe that in nature?
What do you mean?
I mean, science deals with the natural world, physical natural world. So for it to be a phenomena, first we must experience it in nature, for it to be a natural phenomena worthy of study. Because if it's not experienceable in nature, it's created by man. So do you want to direct me to where this happens in nature?
Well, in order to, we need a tool to experiment. We need a tool to test the wave contraction.
So what wave contraction? Where is it experienced in nature? Where are you going, oh, I wonder what caused that wave contraction? Where did that happen in nature?
I mean, it must happen all the time in nature if we observe it, right?
Where? Where am I observing this in nature?
I think
Can I
everywhere.
ask a question? Can I ask a question about this ether stuff?
Not until we establish where this natural phenomena is happening everywhere, and I'm not seeing any wave contraction. I'm sorry if I'm being stupid, but you say it's happening everywhere. I don't see it happening at all. I don't even know really what you're describing because I'm not looking at it now, and you're saying it happens everywhere? No. You haven't directed to me where this happens in nature. Are you going to assume it happens in nature and then go on and make a man-made device and say that that's a phenomenon you're studying because you assume it happens in nature and then you've recreated it in a man-made gizmo? That definitely isn't a natural phenomena. Do you see what I'm going with this, yeah?
Okay, but the tool that we use is what's picking it up. So obviously we can't see with our eyes, but we're using a tool to, you know.
Okay, and where's the
Picking
tool observing
it
it happen
up?
in nature?
The wave contraction, anytime you move the panel or like the light.
So when you move a man-made device, so you're still onto you can create this on a man-made device. So again, back to synthetic versus natural. You're creating it then. The man's making this effect happen then. You're making it happen. You're manifesting the effect by doing something. That's synthetic. The effect is synthetic. A man made it.
I mean, the thing to test it, yes.
Test what? What's naturally occurring that we need to test
test
again?
the
Test is an
yeah. So
experiment
they're testing the wave contraction.
that's been made by man.
No, not the wave contraction that's being by man. It's the drift. So when the light is passing through, you know, just the medium, it's contracting, and there has to be an explanation of why it's contracting.
Again, why? Why do we have to explain this man-made gizmo that are man-made? It's not a natural phenomenon. This isn't physics. This is technology. It's nothing to do with your world and everything to do with how technology works. It's not science. You're under the impression that they're doing experiments. An experiment is a very specific thing. It's a hypothesis test. Yeah? Physics is science. Physical. Well, physically, we don't experience what you're describing in nature. So it becomes technology if you're saying we must know the answer. Yeah, you could say that about how a computer functions, but that's technology, not science. And science deals with the physical and natural world. That's what I'm interested in, not how technology works. I'm definitely not interested in technology that's then ascribed to this made-up cause for a misapprehension about light working through a medium. Ether, and then it's claimed to be the cause in this quasi-experiment, which it isn't, even though you're not varying it and manipulating it in any way, shape or form. It's claimed to be the cause of a man-made effect. It's all nonsense. Meaningless nonsense.
There is a variable. It's the stationary one versus the one that's moving. The one that's moving is contracting the wavelength.
And where's this observed in nature?
Nathan,
Cool.
Everywhere. It's just you need a tool to test the contraction of the light.
So you
Nathan,
need a
my question
tool.
is very relevant to this.
Yeah. Not proving ether, number one. You're saying this proves ether. Well, number one, if you're varying the tool, then you're not varying ether. So you're not proving ether as a cause of anything.
No, we're not varying the ether. Where the explanation is the ether.
Yeah, no, an explanation would be the cause of the effect when experimenting. By varying the cause, that's how you validate your assumed cause. So you can assume the cause, but to validate it, you vary it and see if it causes it. You don't vary the distance or the spin or anything else and then say, actually, my variation of distance is ether. No, you have to vary ether. It has to be real. You have to actually be able to physically vary it and hold it. Physically. It's physics. Physical. So if you can't physically hold it and show me it being varied, it isn't real. So how can it be an independent variable, cause of an effect, if you can't show it me or vary it in any way? And telling me about some man-made gizmo you vary isn't you varying ether.
We're varying the light that's moving. That's what we're
So
varying.
not ether then.
No, the ether is the explanation of
No,
why.
that's your
things are at.
assumed explanation. And in science, you vary that to validate it. You don't just assume it and move on and then argue about how Einstein's debunking your assumption you haven't validated or proven or shown in any way in any physical terms. For it to be physics, it's got to be physical.
So the reason why we have the theory of the ether is because waves experience contraction due to its field.
No, you haven't got a theory. Stop using
I'm
these
explaining.
terms. Stop. A theory comes after experimentation. Comes afterwards. First, natural phenomena. Then, hypothesis construction. Then, systematic experimentation. Then, theory. Comes after the experiment. You haven't got one. You haven't even got a phenomena. So don't tell me about the theory that you're explaining. Because if it's not a scientific theory, it's a mystic Meg theory. A colloquial theory with no empiricism attached. And the empiricism, do you remember when I explained about the null? If A, then B, the alternative. If A, not B, the null. When you experiment, one or other of those outcomes gets validated. Either it is or isn't your assumed cause. So in your null, you'd have if ether, then wave contract, then not wave contraction. And then your alternative would have to be if ether, wave contraction. So then you vary ether and see if it causes the effect that you haven't observed in nature. That's how you empirically validate the cause. You don't say, well, I'm varying the distance between the... and then actually the cause of it's ether. That's not how it works. To be science, you've got to validate it empirically. And the empiricism comes from the null. The null is the antithesis of your assumed cause. And when you vary your assumed cause, either it causes it, validating the alternative hypothesis, or it doesn't cause it, validating the null. So one of them gets validated at the end of the experiment. Either it is the cause, or it isn't the cause. Only one can stand true. But you haven't even got the bloody ether to vary. Just making up stuff and saying that's the cause. It's not science, it's pseudoscience.
So what is the explanation for the wave contraction then?
What, the man-made device? A man made it.
No, the device is testing it.
Yeah, unless you can show it me in nature, a man made it.
No, the observed phenomenon is in nature. Is the device is testing it.
Sorry, where's it observed in nature? You just keep assuming it happens everywhere. I asked you last time, 3 times you told me everywhere. I explained in detail that it's not happening everywhere. I'm not seeing it happen. You haven't elaborated and said, no, under a microscope, you'd see X happening. And the happening is the phenomena. It's an occurrence. So what occurrence do I see everywhere? Well, it's just assumed to be everywhere. That's what you've told me. Well, no, mate. This isn't my first rodeo. There is no ether. You don't have to like it. If there was, you could just show it me and then vary it. But you can't because it isn't real. And this is obviously triggering. You can't show it me.
Yeah, because you're rejecting the device.
Why do you keep saying that? Why do you keep saying that?
Sorry, I'm rejecting a device. That's not a phenomenon.
Yes,
it's not
you need a device to test it.
It's not a phenomena you've studied. The apparatus is irrelevant. Doesn't matter. You can use whatever you like to test a phenomena, but the apparatus isn't the phenomena.
But how do you know it even exists without this device? Where do you see it?
Obviously, you can't see a wave contraction with your eyes.
So then how do you know it exists?
That's why you need a device to test it.
No, you're inducing it with a man-made device. You're saying we don't experience it in nature, but if I create a device, I can induce it. So you've made that happen. A man made it happen. How many times?
But how do you know that?
Because a man made it. You telling me Michelson and Morley just the apparatus just fabricated itself out of sand by way of nature, or did a man make it? I'm pretty sure, given that they put their names on it, that a man made it. Hello? I know a man made it. I already know the cause.
Well, why would you manipulate a cause to an effect and then claim that that cause is something else that you didn't manipulate? Why would you do that?
He's got a belief in ether.
What's that?
I think he left.
All right. Yeah, that's going to happen. If you've got a faith and it's getting ripped apart. Maybe he'll rejoin me. You have technical issues. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt. We won't claim rage quit.
So, somebody did rejoin. I don't know if that's him.
That's okay. I thought it might just be a glitch. Anyway.
What?
So, ether. Waves of it. How does waves of ether?
Why does everybody want this universal
That still was
background?
never answered, you know.
There is no
Hey,
ether.
good morning, guys.
Say again?
Bro, I'm a globe earther, and
I
even
just
I didn't
want to know,
understand
like,
that.
how they thought
Oh,
they
and
were
open your eyes,
measuring
it's
waves
everywhere.
of ether or something. Like, I want to understand the thought behind it.
We heard the first time, Arwen. Go ahead.
I think he said waves of light.
Say again?
I think he said light was like a wave or something.
No, that's not a wave.
I just want to know if
I
the
don't
this
know. I
ether.
just think that's what he said.
Go ahead, glitch.
Oh, I'm saying that I don't know if it is. I'm just saying that's what he said. At least I think that's what he said.
Yeah, he needs a medium because he presumes that light's a wave when it isn't. That's correct. Go ahead, Paul.
I've asked this question, and that's why I was going. This is the question I was going to ask: is the ether material immaterial? And usually, when they answer the question, they start saying it's immaterial. So if it's immaterial, that means it's not physical. So how can you do any measurement on it if it's not physical? And I know that's
Can't.
kind of where you're going. I'm just trying to make it quick and
No, well
concise. So
summarised,
if it's
Paul.
a physical
Yeah,
thing,
precisely. Well summarised. If they're
I
going to
think
say it's an immaterial medium, it's like, well, then you can't deal with it in physics because that deals with physical.
Yeah, it's there for physicality supposedly to manifest into. It's what allows physicality to manifest, but therefore, by its own definition, it's not physical. It's
That's like
described.
Sounds like a god substitute.
Yeah. Well,
I
Am I
still
wrong?
don't understand
Like
how you can have
magnetism too,
waves
in a
of a
way.
medium.
it's not so much well, it is a god substitute, isn't it? Because it is that Owen, it's that wave. We've got this thing that we've conjured, but we've conjured it all the same, and we cannot explain it. What we've got is physical understanding of waves and things that we won't go into the detail of light waves, but we've got this physical understanding of waves, and it kind of matches our physical understanding of what could be going off, even though we know it's not physical and we declare it's not physical. We then say, well, that's enough to declare that this medium is semi-physical, because must do that, because then it explains why I'm seeing this thing in this man-made thing.
Yeah, they need medium patterns for their wave patterns.
Well,
Well,
that's the
something
assumptive jump, isn't it? That wave pattern, yeah, means physicality in a non-physical dimension.
Something he said that I don't think he realized he said was, well, how do we explain it then? Well, you know, if you have an explanation without a hypothesis, you just got a neat story, you know, just poetry.
Yeah, be careful.
I don't think he's doing
A
that.
hypothesis isn't an explanation. It's a supposition.
Right, but you need the hypothesis first before you can move into explanation.
Yeah. Once you've validated an alternative hypothesis, you have the explanation for the cause of an effect you were studying. But prior to that, you have a supposition of an explanation. But it isn't even that, because you've got a null in there. So it's got the contrapositive alongside it. So you can't say it's a supposition of the explanation, because you've got the antithesis right next to it.
For all that, you need an observation.
That's the most important detail here. First step, what's the effect we're observing?
Hold on, let's create a device and we'll bring that up for you real quick.
And again, it's a misapprehension when you describe what they're studying, even in the apparatus itself. They've got a misapprehension about what wavelength is and it being physically shortened. It's like, no, even if you've got a medium, sound doesn't do that either. Now, it's described on paper with wavelengths and frequency, but that is not how sound propagates, and it certainly isn't how light propagates. It's not a wave. Now, taking explanations for what we call wavelength in weight is derived from the probability distribution based on diffraction of light, where you can then scale that up for all the different, what we now call wavelengths. Again, it doesn't mean light's a wave. You know, it's not called a wave. You're describing wavelength in that instance. But it's not saying that it's got a medium to propagate through. Same with wave function, where this all begins. But again, you don't need a medium for a probability distribution. It's just absurd. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Nathan. Hey, lads. I'm going to be kind of driving, so I'm just joining in just to be listening.
I did about a week of plugging your channel. Did you grow much?
Yeah, I did actually. I'm getting new subscribers every day now. YouTube block how much I grow, because I've noticed I had more subscribers, then suddenly I had less in the space of an hour. I lost about 40 subscribers. You know, this kind of stuff with YouTube, so there's that stuff going on. But I have constantly people subscribing, so thanks, Nathan, for that. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. We've got to internally promote each other. There's no other way of growing, as far as I can tell.
No, definitely not. No, and even when we're doing that, we're getting subscribers taken away from us by YouTube. You know, because I know I know of at least one. I think actually two people that had to subscribe to me 3 times. I mean, who am I? Do you know what I mean? Why should they have to do that? It's crazy. But what can you do?
Yeah, I don't know. It could just be trolls subbing you up just so they can unsub you when you get to a round number. That happens quite a lot to me. Anyway, sorry, start that again. Godzilla37, thank you very much first and foremost for the super chat. Poor ballers in chat, all so sure and too afraid to join the Discord. Ha ha ha, typical. Thank you very much for the super chat, Godzilla.
Michelson-Morley is sort of like the Cavendish for flat earthers, or some flat earthers.
Agreed.
That's correct.
Yeah, I agree. It's a bit of pseudoscience, and it doesn't matter if you point out to flat earthers that it's pseudoscience. There's an unfortunate group of people that want to retain that magic trick, and that's all it is. A magic trick that takes an empirical method that can be asserted with dogged assurance that what you say with the word of science attached is right. So they've done an experiment, another part of that vocabulary. Okay, well, it must be empirical then. No, they've just hijacked the wording. They've just called what they call a test when they create some technology. They've called that science, and it isn't. Well, they've just taken an empirical method and made up a just so story based on something that they've created from scrap, and they've called it something that validates your world when they just invent a story about a medium for light to propagate through when light isn't a wave. So it's just a whole big fat steaming pile as far as I can see, and loads of flat earthers buy into it. No idea why, I don't know. It's presumably been punted out with the controlled up narrative that we all got subject to when we first came to this subject, right?
Science, it must be natural then, right? Must be observed. Why can't anybody say where we could go see this ether thing, wherever the hell it is, without having to create a device first? Nobody can give me an address where I could go see ether.
Not a thing. It's not real.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Why do we need it? I don't understand. This is something that's I can't fathom. It's like, okay, I
I
get
don't
what
know.
it seems to be a substitute for space. What do you need it for? Why do you need a substitute for space again?
What space? Vacuum space?
Yeah, the vacuum of
If it
space.
doesn't exist, why would we need a substitute?
Precisely. That's what I can't fathom. There is no sky vacuum. What are you talking about? Oh, well, what was formerly the sky vacuum, we're now going to turn into ether. Why? Well, because we need a medium. Why? We need containment to be breathing, critically. Well, beyond that, what do you mean light needs a medium? No, it doesn't. Yeah, it does because it's a wave. No, it isn't. And so you go on.
I think certainly the heart of ether, that question wasn't settled, Mason, in terms of particle or wave. And a lot of the explanations for ether help satisfy wave behavior. Back in the day would probably help you or understand the nature and the behavior of light with it. Obviously, it has the associated baggage now. I think from my understanding, there's no direct need for it, but I can understand in the 1800s why it was. Is it phlogiston as well? Well, there was lots of these things where we put the issues that we don't understand, and for able to progress, we stick it in that box and kind of carry on, calling it ether, calling it phlogiston, whatever it is, until we do get an explanation. And I think in relation to light and ether, we've kind of got that explanation now. That's not to say there aren't
Kind of like
explanations
dark
for why
matter.
Yeah, exactly, Chocolate, exactly.
Well, it's an
Dark matter.
aberration.
Let's just create this because our what we say gravity is doesn't actually work in the universe that we know of. So let's create this dark matter, which explains it all.
If you call it ether, it makes me toes cold because it has a connotation that you have an understanding of what it is. If we just refer to it as this effect that is generated that we have no idea why, we cannot explain yet, then that's actually the reality. There's no need to assign a medium, another dimension or anything to put it in. Surely it's sufficient that we don't understand it to the point that it's a bit weak that we invent an imaginary thing, like you said, like dark matter, just something to fill the void, to pretend we don't have an understanding. Nothing wrong with saying you don't know.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so right when I was talking, I lost the internet connection, so I'm back. So I was saying, I
Damn
thought Paul's
satellites.
point. Yeah, they just fail right when you need them. Paul was saying, is it immaterial or is it material? And as I was listening to the caller, I think he was thinking, hey, we use I mean, this is my words, but this is the correlation I'm making. He was thinking that the apparatus was finding something. Now, he's probably thinking, look, we use microscopes to see smaller things that we can't see with the naked eye. But that's where Paul's point really is good, because are we looking for something material or immaterial? Well, if it's immaterial, you're never going to see it, even with a microscope. So I think he was stuck with using tools that actually do allow us, like a microscope, to see things that we can't see with the naked eye, which are material. And he's applying it to, well, why can't this be looked upon the same way? Well, if it's immaterial, you haven't observed it and you can't see it, then how are you ever going to see it?
Well, when you look at the diffraction grating, all you got to do is assert a cause for it and say light is like a liquid. But then you say perturbation of the ether. That way you're not really directly tying it into a medium. And you just got to get real fancy with your words, you know.
But there's a problem.
Tiptoe.
You've got to have,
Perturbation of the what?
yeah. You've got to actually have the pattern first, right? Well, if you fire off particles of light one at a time, you can still, if you know what light you're firing off, still calculate all of those distributions. But you've only got one hit on the photographic plate or the sensor. So you haven't got anything to even describe as a wave function at that point. But light still travelled from A to B. I'll carefully phrase that. maybe not. Anyway, the point is, you've got one hit on the photographic plate. You fired light. You knew what it was. You've already done the maths because you've done it 20 times before. But you've still only got one hit on the photographic plate. Where's your wave?
Well, even worse than that, this supposed wave function disappears when observed, right? So, or when the path is known, I'm sorry. When the path's known, it disappears. So it couldn't have been a wave to begin with and then just stop being a wave.
Well, the same thing happens if you know the path, right? You fire one, you get one hit. The only difference in those two scenarios, no waves involved, no patterns that could be described as waves, no travel through any medium that was wave-like in any way, shape or form. Just one hit going through a double slit when you know which one it is, and therefore you know where it's going to hit on the photographic plate, that one instance, and you get one hit and you mark it and you go, I knew it was going to hit there because I knew which slit it went through. Or you fire one when you don't know which slit it's going to go through, and it goes somewhere based on probability, you don't know where it's going to go. It's likely to go to the middle one. It's got this percentage of chance of going to the middle one. But you fire it, and what do you know? It goes all the way to the left. Because it's just a probability. At the end of the day, you've only got a probability of knowing where it's going to hit. You don't know where it's going to hit. That's the point. But you've still only fired one through the double slit, and it's only impacted once. There's nothing in that to describe as a wave, is there? Zero.
Exactly.
Well, if you really, really, really wanted to get more detailed about it, then you'd have to follow the presumed path of the light particle, or however you're going to regard it, as it basically moves out of the slit, and then see if it actually moves in accordance to a wave-like motion, or is it just going in a straight line, and exactly as is said with the distribution probability, it just has a pattern to how it moves in a straight line beyond the slit, to clear it up. Because if you realize it's all going in a straight line beyond the slit, there is no wave. Not really. It has nothing to do with the wave.
Let's apply my question to the wave. I want to apply my question to the wave. Is the wave physical?
What wave?
Or is it material
What
or
wave?
immaterial?
What wave? When I say I've fired one through a double slit and it impacts once, you can only derive a wave function if you've got multiple hits when you don't know the outcome. It's diffraction, right? You've got the interference pattern, but it's a pattern. In other words, you can fire one particle at a time until it builds that pattern, and you can then work out your probability distribution based on the pattern that's appeared. But you've got to have the pattern, right? You've got to have multiple impacts to work that pattern out as a diffraction pattern, otherwise known as a wave function or probability distribution. You've got to have lots and lots and lots and lots of impacts to calculate that, to see it as a diffraction pattern, which is reified into a wave. But what about when you've only got one?
Yeah, that's what I was.
One hit. There is no. You're asking where's the wave? Well, if you've only got one hit, there's nothing to be described wave-like in any instance whatsoever.
Indeed, there's only an angular deviation pattern.
Right, go ahead. Discord.
Wouldn't that be akin to comparing a wave like a giant mass of water that allows waves to occur versus a single droplet of water? Now, there obviously wouldn't be a single droplet of water showing a wave pattern or any kind of wave behavior. So going to a single photon is like just taking a single droplet of water. You're not going to get the wave dispersion effect.
Well, sure, if you want to compare it to waves, which Adam tried to do last time, and I don't get it because it just confuses things, but I'll try and do it with your example. If you imagine the wave that's being reified in the medium is going to be the waves of the ocean, Well, the impact of each photon is more akin to the pattern and probability of each impact of the crest of the wave when it hits the beach. So when the wave hits the beach, it leaves a mark, but then the next wave comes in and it doesn't hit the exact same spot. It's further down the beach. And then the next wave comes in and it's further up the beach. And it eventually, each of those impacts, not of the medium, the wave is irrelevant. It's just the thing that's creating the impacts on the beach. Well, the probability of where those impacts on the beach lie could be calculated as a wave function. Yeah? By analogy, it's pretty sloppy. But I'm just saying, in other words, what you'd be studying to give you this probability distribution is the probability distribution of where the wave impacts the beach. In other words, the wave itself is completely irrelevant. Nothing to do with the medium and everything to do with the frequency or the impact rate and when it's going to come. The probability or likelihood that the next wave's going to impact here, 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 or here. And that probability is that mathematical term, wave function. The probability distribution. That's what wave function is. The likelihood of each impact, where it's going to be next. Not waves. Not a medium. Nothing to do with anything of the sort.
Good point.
Anyone else want to add anything on this?
Well, if you can supposedly collapse a wave function of light, if you assume it's light actually being a wave, doesn't really matter. If you can collapse it practically out there, can you demonstrate the same effect with some other form of wave that's actually a wave? I don't think so.
No. Yeah, that's a good point. I was just about to round out the live show, but I will just strap that on to the end of this live show before I round out. So let's just press a few buttons so I'm not going to accidentally roll an outro. But yeah, exactly. So if you're talking about wave function collapse, what you're talking about is when the light gets fired through the double slit, whereas I've described up until now not knowing where it's going to hit on the sensor or the photographic plate. It could hit here, it could hit there. You don't know. You've just got a probability of where it might hit. Each time you fire it, you say, oh, I know for certain it's going to hit in the middle this time, and what do you know? It doesn't. It hits far left. So it's a distribution of probability. You don't know where it's going to hit next. Now, wave function collapse is just you then knowing which of the two slits it went through in this example. And then because you know, it only hits behind that slit. In other words, you've got two slits, therefore you've got two lines. If it goes through the one slit, it makes one line of impacts. And if it goes through the other slit, it's got another line. Well, that is the collapse of probability to actualization. It actually goes through this slit and actually hits behind it. And I know because I knew which slit it went through. So I knew exactly where it would end up on the photographic plate or on the sensor. Well, that's because it's gone from a probability, wave function, to actually knowing where it's going. You know which slit it's gone through. But that's the difference between not knowing something, only having a guess or a probability of likelihood, to actualization. I know which one it's going to hit because I know which slit it's going through. That's wave function collapse. And again, with that fairly lengthy explanation of a mathematical description of probability to actualization, are you going to turn that into a wave, like an actual physical medium wave, like at the beach? Are you going to do that now? It's absolutely absurd. You can't. It's nonsense to even try. Any more? Any more?
Well, you could potentially try to emulate the setup by having two slits in a body of water and then creating little waves specifically behind either slit, right?
No,
It sounds really sloppy, but it could be done. Who knows what'll come out of it? But I'm pretty sure that if you know behind which slit the push on the water is going to be caused, it's still going to ripple out every single time.
Trust Darwin to descend it into nonsense. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Also, a massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering stream, stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. I have been Nathan Oakley and I'll see you all in the next video.
fucking name!
What? Now your basis for believing it's a wave suddenly don't really work out anymore, right?
I thought they already did that. I thought they already did that with the photoelectric effect, though. Like the whole idea behind that is if it was a wave, the transverse properties of a wave would change how the electrons are released.
I don't see how that would relate directly to that, but
Who's responsible for the photoelectric effect? Me and Adam couldn't remember the other day.
Einstein.
I said it was Einstein. Adam?
Yeah, that's what he got the Nobel Prize for.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I said it, and then Adam was like, oh, well, I don't know if it's Einstein. He's gone very quiet.
Nathan, I like the way you brought him right back all the time. You brought him right back. That was excellent.
Who, the ether guy?
Yes, you kept bringing him right back.
Yeah, I'd already forgotten about it, to be honest. It's not going to affect my day much. As I said to him, it's not my first rodeo. It's not the first time I've tried to appeal to a flat earther. And it's one of those times that, you know, you finally find something that you can actually empathise with ballers on a level with. I feel terrible saying this. You do feel like saying, oh, shut up, stupid flat earther. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Nathan, I was going to say from the show before, I was trying to get on before the end of the show.
Hold on, Paul. Look at my subscribers. They're all going. They're all going. Oh, no, come back. No, I'm only joking. Carry on.
All I was going to say is when I answer the question, is the wave physical or material? But you have to answer it's immaterial because it's actually technically a mathematical description. So it's not a real physical thing, so to speak.
Oh,
so
I wish you said that
the
on the live
photon
show.
itself is physical because you indicate you know it, but when it hits the plate, you know it.
Correct.
You know, at that point.
I wish
so
you'd
the way
said that
the
on the live
particle is
show.
physical.
Because you've just described
What's that?
the problem here. At its heart, it's a reification fallacy. That's what you're driving at, right?
Right. Exactly.
right. And to undo it, you can actually then basically demand, okay, well, prove this thing that you believe it really is through experimentation setups. And yeah, that sounds really silly, like do the double slit experiment in a body of water. But hey, if you really believe it's a wave, then well, let's see how waves work, right? That's what they should be doing.
Understanding this stuff is a blessing and a curse because you will hear random Joe normally on your microphone video that I've been watching recently babble on about science, and it does get not frustrating, it just distracts from what I'm trying to pay attention to. Do you know what I mean? When you like, no, this isn't science, it just kind of makes me cringe. You know what I mean?
When you want to go back into like normie mode, right? So it doesn't bother you. Because I get that too. I watch things and I'm like, oh my God, stop saying that science is not science. Fine, bro. What are you talking about? It's like, I miss what you're saying because I'm so concentrated on what the hell you said that was wrong.
Exactly. Someone's telling me that they've got they've taken a very scientific approach to measuring a frequency response of a microphone. And you're like, it's maths. You're just measuring it. You're measuring its frequency response. That's it. That's not science. Just like, why say it? Well, because it makes it sound much more valid when you've got a really good microphone and you're using a really good analyzer. Well, and that makes it science, doesn't it? No, it's definitely not. It's just measuring something. It's just maths. And then you get to measuring how many dodos you can give someone if you've only got 2 in stock and they need 5.
You want to hear how fun this question works even with Einstein's bendy space-time? Just ask the baller, is space-time material immaterial? And see what happens.
Again, that would have been perfect.
I've done it already.
That would have been perfect on the live show because it is. I almost said it and I didn't, which is that people often ask me to introduce that as a housekeeping question in the same vein, the exact same vein as asking for scientific evidence of gravity. So as for scientific validity to ether, it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. Knowing what science is and isn't is a double-edged sword, and you're going to end up calling out your own. But that's not the Western worldview. That guy is inconsequential.
May I jump in and ask a question, right?
Feel free.
Nathan, hello.
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Look, you say that measuring something isn't science, okay? I've done building and engineering on high-rise buildings, right? And they test the compression rate of concrete. Now, that is done using math. And depending on how that works out, they either agree or deny the batch of concrete that comes in. Is that not science?
No.
Didn't you say math?
You just told us 3 times it was measuring
So
it.
they,
Did the clue
yeah,
of your
but
own
they're
question not give it
measuring,
away? Maybe you
they're
talk through my
measuring the,
response. Maybe talk directly through my response. Do it again. You won't continue to be here this time. I'm not going to argue with you for 20 minutes while you ignore every word I say and talk through it the moment I start talking. Or later start projecting on me that I'm not allowing you to speak. I just listened to you ask your stupid question about measuring things, repeatedly repeating yourself that it is measuring it. And then you say, is that not science? My God. No, it's measuring. Isn't that obvious by the fact that you said measuring about 6 times?
if it's not science by measuring the compression rate of the concrete, how do they know whether the concrete is useful in the building production?
They measure it. Are you dumb? They've just told me how you do it. You measure it. That doesn't make it science. What is science? Generally, Shady.
Well, that makes the science of the building work. Because if
it's not
failed,
science. I've just told you it isn't science. You don't know what science is. That's the bottom line here.
No, it doesn't matter what you
said
told
the science
me.
of a
I'm
building.
saying
Tell
that
us.
If the compression ratio of the
You're going to
concrete
keep
doesn't
bloody
work, then
going
they
on about
reject it.
compression rates in concrete. What is science? If you get it wrong, I'm going to stop you. That means interrupt because you're wrong. So go ahead, tell us what science is. It's not compression rates of concrete, by the way.
Well, that was my question.
You want me to tell you what science is?
It's the science of the concrete itself.
There's nothing to take. I'm asking him.
I don't know. I'm sorry, but I don't know what I'm getting wrong here, because if it doesn't match up to the numbers that they asked for, then they reject that batch of concrete.
Numbers.
Maths.
Sounds like engineering to me.
Can I take this one, Nathan?
Just a test.
Are you retarded?
Guys, I'm in the middle of a conversation. Do I want to battle my own panel? I'm trying to get the guy to just concede he doesn't know what science is. He keeps telling me over and over again that there might be a problem with some technology. Like I give a crap about the numbers. It's maths. I've told him that 5 times. And I've explained to him, you don't know what science is. Now we need to get to a point where he says, okay, tell me what it is.
Yeah, I'll go
Jim,
there.
can you mute, please? You're going to cause audio chaos.
That's okay. I'll go there.
You don't know what science is, so you're going to bugger off. Jim, mute.
What I'm
Sorry.
What I'm saying is, like, that isn't that science to actually make sure the mathematical figures have to match up to make the building work. Isn't that science?
The mathematical numbers, no, that's maths. Making sure the mathematical numbers work is maths. Now, for this conversation to progress, I need you to, number one, accept that every single time you ask me about adding up numbers, that's maths. And then say, okay, tell me what science is. A mild concession that you don't know. I'm going to tell you now you don't know, because you wouldn't be asking if you did.
In that kind of field, what...
I'm going to kick you out. If you just keep asking me again and again about compression rates in concrete, I'm going to kick you out. Because I've told you 5 times that's not science. I've told you it isn't. Now, you don't have to accept that. You can go away thinking that you've got empiricism when measuring stuff. It's not science. It's not empirical. It's just maths. I've told you that 7 times. If there's going to be an 8th rendition of this concrete shit, I'm going to remove you. Do you understand?
It's not just concrete. What I'm asking is the language that they have to use in that. in any form of testing like that, in that form, whether it be structural engineering, concrete, whether it be anything like that, the language that they use is mathematics.
Yeah. So you've just
It's
answered
not
your own.
words,
So
you know
not
what I mean?
science then. So not the language of hypotheses then. Not the language of cause and effect reasoning and phenomena then. The language of mathematics. So you're answering your own bloody question for the 8th time. This
So the
isn't
mathematics
science.
don't matter?
It's not science. I've answered you.
No, you haven't.
Fuck off.
You
Get
just
out.
You just said it's not
Get the fuck
science.
out.
It's not
You're a
science.
prick. You're a prick.
Bro, you just said
You
it's
just said
math.
it's not science, but you're not explaining why that isn't relevant.
Oh, do you want to ask? You didn't ask.
In
You didn't ask. You just kept on
in
talking about
structural
concrete 8
engineering.
times. Do you want to ask why it isn't?
No, I did ask. I did ask.
Say, please, Nathan, tell me what science is.
What language?
Yeah. Pretty please, Nathan.
language-
What science, Nathan? I'm dumb as shit and think maths is science. So I'd like you, the flat earther, to educate me. That's what you need to say.
Sorry?
You say, pretty please, to me, the flat earther who knows what science is. It's not maths. You definitely don't know what it is, and you're going to say, please, Nathan, you tell me what science is, because I haven't got a clue. That's you who hasn't got a clue what science is. You keep telling us it's maths. You're wrong, and I will educate you. You just got to have an ounce of humility. That's all. Not much.
Okay. No worries. Okay, Nathan, please educate me as to what the language of science is in engineering or whatever.
Sorry, in engineering, that's engineering. That's like saying, explain to me the language of cooking.
It uses science.
You're going to talk straight through me?
It uses-
Going to talk straight through me? Yeah? Wanker? Try again. That's like asking to give me the language of cakes in car manufacturing. Yeah, so no, not the language of science in engineering, because that's a completely different discipline called engineering, not science. So your caveat needs to be dealt with first, because only a real thicko would ask me to detail the language of science in engineering, which is basically the bias you're fighting for, which is to say that your engineering examples are science when they're not, and I've told you 9 times. But you're going to caveat me explaining what science, a different discipline to engineering, is in engineering? No, we'll deal with that first. You're thick. You don't seem to understand that these are different disciplines, and you're asking me to explain science within a discipline that isn't science, and you've been told 10 times. Okay, thicko?
Engineering is a field of science.
Chant that, bitch. Chant for me. Chant it 5 times.
Engineering is a field of science.
You are a fuckwit. Science deals with the physical and natural world. It establishes the cause of phenomena. Engineering isn't.
Well, if a beam on a building...
Maybe talk about concrete compression for the next 10 minutes. You complete moron.
If a beam...
You don't know what science is, stuttery moron.
Let's cut it down.
Let's stutter away because you don't know what science is, but you haven't got an ounce of humility to ask. You can only ask with a caveat that works towards your bias that engineering is science. So you're going to caveat your question. No, I'm not going to accept your little caveat that I've got to explain it within engineering. That's not science.
I did ask, mate.
You asked me to explain science within engineering. That caveat is what I've dealt with. That's 3 times I've dealt with it. But you're a little weasel, aren't you? You need engineering to be science. So it's like got some magical empiricism attached to it when you start talking about compression rates. Who's doing that? G+, my God. Just open your mic up and click the fuck away while I'm in the middle of a sentence, I would. It's not science, my friend. That's engineering. And I'll explain to you what science is if you just ask. You've got to have a little bit of humility, accept you don't understand what it is, and ask a flat earther to tell you. And then I'll tell you.
Explain science to me, Nathan.
Okay, with pleasure. Science is the establishment of cause when studying natural phenomena. It is established by way of systematic experimentation based on hypotheses.
Okay, that's fair. I like that.
Me too. Engineering and concrete compression rates definitely doesn't fit into that bracket, though.
If I use a block of granite across an archway and it fails, and I therefore want to investigate that, how do I do that?
You could use some maths and some engineering skills, maybe some deductive logic, but definitely not science, because science deals with natural phenomena. Physics, physical, naturally occurring. And the reason it's naturally occurring is because if it's not, it's synthetic, it's man-made. Made by man, so you already know what the cause is.
The block of granite just broke, and therefore I want to figure out why and how. I'll have to use mathematics.
It was
That
2
includes
weeks.
the field of engineering.
It was 2 weeks, so it broke.
Sorry, hold on. If you were just walking along one day and you happen to be over concrete, over granite, my bad, which is natural, and you happen to see it just spontaneously crack apart, then that would be a phenomena you could study with science. That would be an occurrence, something you watched happen. An occurrence.
Thank you. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you could study that. That's a naturally occurring phenomena.
And what language would we use to study that or explain?
To explain the cause.
Mathematics, correct?
It's not language. It's a method. So to explain the cause of the effect, the way you would,
the language.
you definitely need to talk through it after only a couple of breaths. You definitely need to talk through it, wanker. Yeah, you're just a triggered, scummy, globe-believing fundy being smirked at by a flat earther who knows what science is, right? Yeah, to do this, the language, as you put it, isn't a language, it's a method. And the method would be to assume what caused the effect you observed, and then vary that assumed cause to see if it causes it. That's called the scientific method. That's an experiment.
And the language you would use to explain it is?
I just told you, you're just too dumb to listen. You talked when I spoke. So when I explained that it's not a language, it's a method, and the methodology I then detailed, you then went on to ignore it and asked me what the language was, because you're a retard. Language is abstract. Science is a method. Describing things with language, that's abstractions. And establishing cause, that's science. Physics. Very different things. Describing things in the abstract language of maths or English is nothing to do with the establishment of cause.
Sorry, but language is the mathematics is a language.
That's nice, that's maths, and we're talking about science. Well, we are. You keep talking about maths.
Yeah.
That's because you don't know what science is. You think maths is science, and that's because you're a globe believer. So automatically, you're pretty stupid.
Not math, Nathan.
Is an accountant a scientist?
My simple question is, what language do you use to describe it breaking? No, Nathan just said it was science.
You keep saying
language you use.
Oh, you could use Spanish, Italian, mathematics. You could use all sorts of languages to describe it. Yeah, descriptions aren't explanations, though, are they? Now, the establishment of cause, that's an explanation. And the language you use to describe it abstractly could be any language. You know, I can describe it in Espanol. I can describe it in English. Au français.
No, you can't.
I can describe it in all sorts of
can't just
languages. And you can definitely talk through me explaining this. Because you're a globe-believing triggered fundy. And you don't like flat earthers who know better than you explaining stuff. So it's probably best to talk through every word I say.
Yes.
Yes, I know, you're a scumbag. A scumbag, thicko globe believer, who doesn't know what science is and really needs it to be maths.
You're denying the fact that you use math as a language to...
Yeah, you do use maths as a language. I didn't deny it. That's a misrepresentation. Yeah, language, that's abstract, and maths is one of them. Can be used, but it's not explaining anything. It's just descriptions.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not science. You're a clown. Your maths, describing things, doesn't explain things. Science can do that with hypothesis-based experimentation, something you haven't got the vaguest clue about. You keep telling me about compression rates in concrete and engineering because you don't know what science is. But that's fairly typical for a globe believer, to be berated, talked down to, and generally demeaned by a flat earther who does know what science is. And you don't, mate. You're thick.
No, the mathematics...
Yeah, you are. You're thick. Go on. Brian.
The difference, thanks Nathan, what's wrong here is, General Shady, what you're asking about, you already know the cause and effect. It's just a case of finding out what strength material. So you mathematically have to find out what strength material you need to hold whatever weight. That's basically all you have to do. You already know the cause and effect. Whereas science is a naturally observed phenomenon that you only know the effect of and you haven't found out the cause. You know the cause. So you don't have to find it out. All you have to find out is what strength material, or how strong the material has to be, or what material needs to go there for that level of strength. Maybe marble is not going to be strong enough. Maybe you need to put rebar through stuff. Who knows? Whichever. But that's engineering. That's you would use mathematics
that is fair.
for that.
That's just measurement.
That is very fair. That's cool. But
Yeah, other than you keep saying that's science and you're a stupid idiot. Fair? Not just you being completely wrong, and us as flat earthers pointing out how wrong you are about your misapprehensions about science. So what's happened here? Fair. That to say flat earthers have educated your dumbass on what science is because you thought it was maths. That's fair.
You're wrong again.
No, I'm not. That's fair. It's fair that you keep thinking science is maths. And fair to say we've pointed out how wrong you are, that engineering isn't science. That's fair. Only reasonable. I think everyone would agree. That's only fair. You are thick, globe believer. I am righteous and understand science, unlike you.
Used to describe why that granite block failed. And
Descriptions are not explanations. Do you understand that? Explanation for cause is established with experimentation. Descriptions in the abstract language of maths aren't explanations.
what language do you use for those explanations?
General,
Don't use a language, you use a method to establish cause. Told you that about 5 times, you're just too dumb. You talk when you should listen. That's why you will remain ignorant forever. Even though it displeases you that we know better about this subject, you continually talk while we try to educate your dumbass.
Better. It almost sounds like you know they're using math, but you keep asking us why this math is not science. Math is not science, right?
Use your.
It's not.
Yeah,
go ahead, Adam. Go ahead.
So this is what chocolate gift from Boston University, Dean of the University, Dean Luncheon. Engineering is not science. Engineers are not a subcategory of scientists. So often the two terms are used interchangeably, but they are separate, albeit related disciplines. Leave it there.
Yeah, okay. Yep, I'll take that.
What, the soul-crushing defeat at the hands of flat earthers? You'll take that, will you? Good. Yeah, you take our nuts on your face, you complete retard. You'll take that, will you? What, that you're completely wrong, globe-believing idiot who thinks engineering is science? Yeah, you take the pummeling we've dealt out to you, you complete retard. Good boy. Now sit down, shut up, and don't offer anything else to this conversation. You're the dumbest person here, globe believer. Yeah, you take that.
Yeah, go on mute again.
Yeah, you take that, Dumbo. Understand that you've been educated by flat earthers. That's what's happened here. You take it like a good little doggy.
What two numbers would you need to mix together to get concrete compression? That doesn't make sense.
It does.
You know-
They use the square inch. They use a square inch and press it until it breaks.
General, you're
if you look
literally
at-
saying that if you investigate a crime, you're doing science. You genuinely are saying that. It's
What?
the same
So-
shit. If something breaks and you investigate what caused the building collapsing, that's science. Okay, if somebody dies and I go and investigate and find out who did the murder, that's science.
These guys think asking any question is doing
What
science.
does that have to do with what I asked?
It's the exact same shit you're saying.
Forensic
No, it's
science
not.
do
You've just gone to a crime, and I was talking.
Yeah, mate, don't start telling people what they don't know. You're in no position to tell us what is and isn't correct in this instance. We've just had to educate you. Now you can sit your ass down and shut the hell up, dumb globe believer. Why are you offering challenge to this man? We've just got to the point, very painful that it was, to highlight how ignorant you are. Yeah, fair. No, very, very unreasonable on your part. You spoke through us continually. You're a complete wanker, totally arrogant. You think you're right and can challenge us now. Shut up! Pin your ears back and be told by the more educated people among you, that would be the flat earthers, and how stupid you are. You need to sit and listen to us telling you how dumb you are, making equivalents to how stupid you've been, and you can sit there and take it. It's only fair.
Its equivalence isn't right. Forensic science does exist.
Yep.
Wow.
But mixing 7 and
Determining
8
the cause
together
of
is
the
not
dead-
going to cause concrete compression. That's ridiculous.
What's ridiculous about concrete compression?
It's not science. We just
Saying-
pointed that out to you.
saying
But
that-
even because you've only just learnt this fact, you're just too dumb to process it quickly and realise that every time you've asked that question, and now you've said it's fair when you've had a nice citation given to you by Adam about just how not science engineering is, you then told us how reasonable it was after talking through us continually for about 20 straight minutes. That's because you are what is known as a globe-believing wanker who's having to be educated by flat earthers now, aren't you? With citations about how engineering isn't science, the thing you battled through us and talked through us, talked down to us, told us how wrong we are, when in reality, the only dumb fuck here is you.
Right, so I'm talking...
Yes, but shut up, Dumbo. So shut up. We don't need any more input from you. The dumbest person here seems to be the most vocal constantly. Yeah, that's always the way, isn't it? The dumbest person in the room thinks he has to make the most noise. Sit your ass down. Maybe you'll learn something. Stick yourself on mute, Shady. Don't make me have to do it to you. Just sit down and listen to the more educated amongst you. Don't challenge us with your stupidity that gets proven wrong. You thought engineering was science. You're just a stupid idiot. You don't have anything to offer to us other than your ignorance and basically mainstream belief in a globe. Like every other dumb fuck that comes here. That's all you've got. You're just like every other sheep on the planet. Yeah? Your planet. That isn't real. You are the same level as every other dumb fuck that comes here. And we educate them too. And when we're done, we tell them to shut up, sit down, don't offer any more of your stupidity to this conversation. Yeah? Understand that you're being told off for stupidity. Don't feel that you've got to rage through us and talk through us like you're doing now. Just sit yourself on mute and shut up. Know your place.
Someone mentioned...
Your place is having fallen off the dumb tree and hit every branch on the way down, generally, Shady. That means shut up.
Someone...
Do you understand? You're too dumb to comprehend that you've been totally embarrassed, told to shut up, and that you've got nothing to offer here other than your ignorance that needs to be corrected over a long period while you interrupt us a lot. You think that means that I want an answer? No, I need to see your little mute light come on so I can then laugh at you with everyone else as we all talk about how stupid you've been. Not asking you to interject in that conversation, asking you to sit down, put yourself on mute, pin your ears back, and be told just how dumb you are by flat earthers. That's what you can do. If you don't do it, I'll do it for you. You understand me, Dumbo? That's not rhetorical. You can say yes and then go on mute.
Someone asked about a
Hit
crime
every
scene.
branch on the way down. That's a classic.
Someone asked about a crime scene. Correct.
Not you. We don't want you. That's why I've now muted you permanently and you won't take part in this discussion anymore. I wasn't inviting you to answer any questions of flat earthers who obviously know better than you. That's where this started, you stupid retard. I was telling you, don't interject in this conversation. You've got nothing to offer here. Don't try and pull apart the analogy that someone else has given you, a flat earther, definitely more intelligent than you. You didn't understand what the hell you were talking about, and we had to go through it and correct you. Now you think you're part of this conversation. No. I asked you politely to go on mute so that you could potentially re-interject into this conversation, and instead you started answering the question I berated you about in the first place. You have no right joining in this conversation. We're going to be talking about how stupid you are, not to you, asking you for your opinion on how stupid you are. We don't need that. I'm done.
Good. I want to write to rebuttal earlier. I was on the phone and I heard he's gone quiet over there. Am I still screen sharing?
Yeah, I've had you up the whole time.
Yeah, cool. So if I can just quickly switch over. The photoelectric effect was discovered in 1887 by the German physicist Heinrich Rudolf Hertz. This relationship between light and electricity was clarified in 1902 by the other German physicist, Philipp Leonard. And then just to bring Einstein in, the phenomenon was fundamentally significant in the development of modern physics because of the puzzling questions it raised about the nature of light, particle versus wave-like behavior, that were finally resolved by Albert Einstein in 1905. That's a bit of clarity. I knew there was a bit more to it, Nate, but I couldn't answer the other day.
I want to rebuttal that.
Fair
because the part that Einstein did had to do with determining whether it was a wave or a particle. That's what he got. You know, like they knew that when light hit these plates, it released electrons. They knew that before then. But Einstein's
Yeah, that bit's
explanation.
Joseph John Thomson.
Yeah, they knew about the electron release, but Einstein showed that it couldn't be a wave. That's what he got the.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
The clarity he gave in 1905.
Can I make a comment about math? You know what? I do math every day. I figure out pricing all the time with numbers, multiply or plus minus. So am I doing science when I'm figuring out pricing for people every day? Because I'm using the language of science, as he would say.
Are you
Is that
doing the
science?
calculations on a scientific calculator?
Scientific calculator when I'm doing the, and my phone has a scientific calculator on it.
Then yes.
So
I think that's the
that
standard.
means no. Only if your phone's sideways are you doing science.
Doing sideways. Now there's just people called accountants. They do a lot more with math numbers than I do, and they have these. They can actually use Excel spreadsheets that can put equations in these Excel spreadsheets to calculate and figure out numbers on this Excel spreadsheet. Is that science?
Okay, well, I'll have to
they
break
have
it
to be
down with a
using
normie hat on.
scientific calculator for it to be science.
So
You have to use a scientific. Wait a minute. You have to use a scientific calculator for it to be science.
Yeah,
really?
that's basically correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Nathan knows what he's talking about.
Yeah,
Exactly.
there are
That's
rules
what
here.
scientific
Virus is right, and I'm going to break them down in the vein of a normie globe believer. That would be to say completely incorrect misapprehension of what we're talking about, but I'll detail it anyway. Here's the rules, Paul. If you're doing maths on a scientific calculator, then that's science. Or it's basically down to the machine that you're operating. So, for instance, if you've got a little high school microscope and you're looking at stuff under it, that's not really science. But if you've got a massive microscope, then that's definitely science. You with me? So it's really dependent on what you're using.
Yeah. Well, technically, hold on a second. Well, then if that's the case, then technically, an Excel spreadsheet can be science because I can take all the formulas and calculations that are in a scientific calculator and put it in Excel, and then I can create graphs with it, and I can do predictions with it.
That's
Excel isn't a scientific
definitely
calculator.
science then. Yes, Paul. That by the standards of normie idiots, yes, Excel is basically science.
Excel is
getting triggered in the background. That's hilarious.
Excel. You got to use a scientific calculator.
Yeah, we had that. I made that joke, Virus. Thank you. Go ahead, whoever's in G+.
I was going to say, can call Michelle Fowler and tell her that it's okay for her to call herself a scientist now. Just use a scientific calculator.
Right on.
Yeah, you got to use a scientific. You got to use a scientific calculator, man. It's not
Thank you. That's the
science.
5th time you've repeated my
Unless you
joke, Virus. Thank you. I get that you like my joke.
Yeah, I was going to ask a question. Can the globe heads that are in the server here provide us with the scientific method for the globe? Can they do that? That's why we're here, after all.
It's beyond
Before you go there, I just thought of something.
No, just for Jin. Just hold on,
calculator...
Paul. Just let me answer, Paul. Just let me answer, Jin. No, it's beyond scientific inquiry. The shape of the Earth is not a phenomena to study. Go ahead, Paul.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, if you're only doing science when you're using a scientific calculator, I don't see the germ theory button in a scientific calculator. Can you please show that to me? I can't find it. I used one in college and I never could find that germ theory formula or numbers. It's on the scientific calculator.
Well, germ theory is based on actual experimentation. So it's a cause and effect that's been established through an experiment that's then been, obviously after experimentation, become a theory. Well, that's science as opposed to mathematics. There is no maths for germ theory.
Just like there's no language for science, you can use any language to do science, including mathematics.
And to go back to the engineering real quick, how engineering is not science. You know that citation was by Boston University College of Engineering. So those are engineers telling you that engineering is not science. Shady or whatever your name is. So you
Yeah,
might
but
want to just put that in Google real quick
Chocolate,
before you come here with that crap again. Thanks.
that Boston University didn't have the right calculators.
Yeah.
They didn't have the scientific ones.
They should have bought bigger machines for whatever they were doing there. But no, just to take it away from the farcical nonsense that we've just been asserting. Correct, it's a method, and the methodology is empirical, based on having a null and an alternative hypothesis that you will validate one or other of upon experimentation. It's an empirical method, not a language, a method.
There's more rubbish around science, though, as well. The word science. There's a few. I've heard this from borders where they define the word science when they look at a definition. The main word to come up with is knowledge, right? But that's not correct because, well, it is correct in one way and not correct in another way because that allows them to say we have the knowledge that such and such calculation of gravity is the reason for something falling, right? This rubbish. But that's not knowledge because that was changed to something else. Do you know what I mean? What I mean is that like gravity was changed from a force to an effect. So how is any of that knowledge? Because number one, it's not definitive because what you're told, if it's one thing at one point in time and there's another thing in another thing at another point in time, then that's not knowledge because it's not dependent.
It was never that
Hold
first
on,
thing in the
hold on,
first
hold
place.
on, hold on. Hello? That's called an etymological fallacy. So if you look at the etymology of the word science, you get to scientia, I think it's pronounced, and then say that means knowledge. No, that's the etymology of the word. In context, when we say science, we mean natural science. What's the subject matter? Physical and natural world. That's definitely natural science, as opposed to the etymology of the word, which would lead you to knowledge. So it's contextual. And in this context, we're very specific about science and what it means. And the hijacking of that meaning is what they use when they call things science. They mean empirical. We've got ether, we've done an experiment. Well, that's a scientific terminology that's been hijacked to imply that a just so story about a medium for light to move as a wave through, complete nonsense, is valid. They use their terminology that's been hijacked from the current meaning of the word, not the etymological foundation or background history to the word. That's an etymological fallacy.
Yeah, well, I'm just talking about how the borders have defined it, as they've defined it as the word knowledge. But the problem with that, I know that if I take fresh pasta and put it into boiling water and then put that boiling water down to simmer, depending on the type of pasta it is, it'll take me, let's say, between 4 and 7 minutes at simmer for it to be cooked before I can put it into a strainer. But is that science? Or is that just me making pasta? Do you know what I mean? It's complete and utter rubbish. It's not science.
Exactly. It's down to you knowing what the definitions of these words actually mean. And when it comes to science, contextually, we're debating about the nature of reality. So it's very much immediately pigeonholed into a very specific type of science. And it's not the etymological background to the word. It's the natural world being studied. Natural science. So we're talking about natural science. That's basically it.
And even to take that further, Nathan, physics doesn't necessarily need math. There's just, I can't think of his name. I always forget. He's the old guy. He's got brown, gray hair, and he's doing all of this physics in his classroom for everybody to watch. And I said, there's many videos I've watched of him, and not once does he talk about an equation, a number, or mathematics at all. But he does physics through the whole video. You know the guy I'm talking about?
Sure. Physics is science. Physics is the study of the physical. Well, in natural science, you're talking about the study of the physical and natural world. That's, again, natural science. Physics is science. So you're talking about the study of the physical and natural world again. So contextually, as soon as you say physics, you're right, that's not maths. That's the study of the physical and natural world. Well, why natural world? Well, because if you study the synthetic world, like we described with the guy at the beginning of the show, that's man-made. You already know the cause of it. No need to study it. You already know. So it boils it down to natural science, which is physics. And under that comes biology, Same thing applies. You're studying cause and effect relationships based on natural phenomena in biology. Again, science, but it falls under physics.
I have to address Brian. An Irishman making pasta? Yes, that's rubbish.
He was just trying to be posh. He meant
No,
potatoes.
no.
I can make some serious
It's
pasta.
We all
it's
know it
worse
was
than that, Neil.
potatoes. We pretend he's posher than he is.
It's far worse than that. It's the ballers walking pasta without realizing it.
I was waiting for it, man. Both of you guys.
16% Italian and 25% Irish, so I can get away with both those jokes.
I mean, Brian, you could just solve the problem. You could just walk around telling yourself you made some scientific pasta. There you go.
Did you have a calculator? Did you have a calculator or a stove?
You weighed it, it's definitely science.
Well, I know that Nathan, the fact that Nathan is 15% Irish, and he's very insulted by what Neil said.
Yeah, I know it. I know it. It's potatoes, not pasta.
It's just funny. They're showing their stupidity. All these ballers that come in, they're really just dumb.
That's why I lay it on
Yes.
thick, Neil.
When I make pasta,
Go on, whoever that was.
so when I make pasta, I don't use a clock at all. I just taste it. When it tastes good, I'm done.
I throw it at the wall.
Don't start the Italian up.
Throw it at the wall.
So if we've got the scientific method for cause and effect questions, then is there a scientific method for what is questions, or do we just use logic for those?
Yeah, you can use all sorts of different methods for what is questions, but exclusively
Yeah.
science is dealing with cause and effect. But yeah,
Can
what
there
is the
be a
shape of the world?
scientific what is question?
No. What is the shape of the world? Unless the question is, what is the cause of that effect? No.
Yeah.
Well, what
like,
is the
what
sun?
is that star up in the sky, or what is? the
That's not a
Earth?
phenomena to study. So when you say, what is that star? No, that's not science. What is it? Well, you can go and have a look at it. Well, if you do, you're still not establishing the cause of an effect. Still not natural science. A phenomena is what you're going to be studying if you're doing science. If you're dealing in the physical and natural world, it's not going to be a synthetic anything. It's going to be something natural. Now, if you say, why does the star appear? You could say that's an effect. Why does it move across the sky? That's an effect. So you start varying presumed causes of that effect and see if you can cause it to happen or not happen. You know what I mean? In your null, in that example, if I'm saying why does the star move, right? You get your presumed cause, whatever that may be. But in your null, you've got if this presumed cause of the star movement, then no star movement. So you vary your thing that you think's causing the star movement, and your null is that it won't happen. Right? So it just descends into nonsense. That's
Yeah.
why you get the just so stories. They can't validate hypotheses for any of the phenomena that they study.
Wait, do you really see the star moving though? Can we see a star moving?
Yeah.
Wasn't this the
Yes.
guy who said he laid down and then he got up and he measured the time
No, that
and
was
said he did it?
No, that was Copo Flakes.
No, that's what I'm saying. Wasn't he arguing along the same point what we're talking about? That he's not doing real science. All he's doing is standing up and measuring time.
Gotcha. He's using a stopwatch to derive our physical horizon. He says is refracted. Yeah, it was complete cluster screw. But yes, you're right. He's just using maths. He's not establishing the cause of a phenomena. And if you want to say, well, the phenomena is that the sun comes back when you stand up, it's like you stood up. You didn't know what caused it. You stood up.
I know, but it's just funny how they think time is an independent variable.
They also, when they do things like that, they will assert that, you know, the distance movement between you and the position when you're upright is the cause. And you're like, so you think standing up causes sun movement? Like, this is so absurd.
But I don't think they don't even get how that is what they're saying, but that is exactly what they're saying.
I was listening to that and I started laughing out loud. He actually completely debunked his whole thing. Besides it being a load of rubbish, when he said he was looking at the sun mirage, it's like, yeah, you're looking at a mirage. So when you go down low, your angle to this mirage is less than when you're standing up high. So you see more of the mirage when you're up high because your angle is greater to the bottom of the mirage. It's like, wow, what a genius. It's like phenomenal. Like, the
It's like,
intelligence.
thanks for proving perspective. Good looking out.
Mirage. Yeah, it's not the sun. It's a mirage that's left behind by the sun.
Yeah, the not actual position of the sun is moving behind a not actual refracted, not actual position of a horizon, so that you can derive an R value that will give you the physical obstruction that is the claim to be horizon when geometric, that you've relinquished by saying it's refracted. But when he says mirage, as you've put it, Brian, no, he's invoking terrestrial refraction immediately. He's got atmosphere and light bending through it when he says refraction. So he's already used an R value, and they don't like that. As soon as they have to invoke refraction, it's terrestrial refraction for them. And they haven't got it unless they've got R. So when they're trying to get R in any alternative means...
No,
go on.
There's actually no... when you see the sun on the horizon, that's not the sun anymore. What you're seeing in the deep orange and reds, that's a mirage left behind by the sun. That's not a sun. The sun is not there anymore. That's why the sun often appears to be the same size, as well as the fact that it's in within that 15-degree area. It appears to be the same size, but yet it only looks to be 4 miles away from you. But yet it's colder. That's a mirage that's left behind by the sun. That's not the sun anymore. That's why you can see you just type into Google the sun mirage. You see all these different versions of the sun that all look completely different at sunset because it's a mirage that's left behind, and it depends on the weather what kind of mirage is left there. So when he spoke about mirage, he was talking about seeing a mirage.
Yeah, I get that.
He proved.
They've got a not actual position of the sun. So it's not an actual position at any stage. So they're saying, I'm going to time the not actual position of the sun as it moves behind the not actual position of the horizon, and that's going to give me an R value. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, but the deep orange.
I don't think some of them even know that even in their own model, they don't have an accurate position of the sun. It's always a apparent position. Some of them don't even know that. I don't think.
No, they don't.
It's
You're right.
their own model.
They don't know the difference between apparent and actual. That's correct, Chocolate.
Okay, can we get back to...
1 second, Ted. Just one last thing before we go on. My point about it being deep orange and red, the point of that is that proves, because of the light spectrum, that the sun is not there. So what they think is going down behind, what they have thought for years was going down behind a geometric horizon, is not, because that's what's left. That's the light of the sun the mirage is left behind. The sun itself is not there anymore. So what they're seeing is a mirage, right, disappearing into an apparent only horizon. It's like, wow, unbelievable.
Yeah, can we get some clarity on time as an independent variable? Was it QE who said that if that was the case, then everything is caused by time?
Correct. Can't have time as a causal agent, because then time is caused by everything is caused by time.
Right, so it's ridiculous for them to even use it.
Yeah, it's reification of
when
a
you're
concept.
cooking, you don't ever put your lasagna in the oven and just wait.
Just a question of time. I don't even make the lasagna. It's just a question of time. The lasagna will appear.
just wait long enough. A tray of lasagna will just appear on your desk.
Yeah, the cause isn't me shopping and then creating the lasagna and laying out the sheets. No. Just a question of time. Time's the cause.
So is this a good time to say where'd you get the lasagna in the first place?
Indeed. Manifested that in nothing.
That's the Big Bang Theory. They just wait around long enough and boom, everything's there. All for the make everything.
There you go.
I was about to say, he stole my joke. Yeah, have you not heard the Big Bang lasagna theory? You start with nothing, divide by it, and then you get every lasagna in the world all at once. It's brilliant.
Exactly.
You know, the old divide by zero, get everything.
Or you just let the nothingness in your oven evolve into a lasagna. That's even better.
No, I tend to find
throw some cheese in it, and you get string theory to go.
No,
but if you wait too long, the lasagna try to break out of your house and run away.
It just comes because of the bending of space-time. So what happens is we have gravitational accretion, and the general ingredients just sort of manifest by way of gravitational accretion. It's just a violation of entropy that makes lasagna appear out of nothing in my oven. Just see the ingredients floating down a gravitational well towards the oven.
And the
Lasagna
friction caused by this
accretion.
gravitational accretion is what cooks the lasagna as it's as it's forming together with gravity.
That's right, lasagna accretion.
Science cooks it. Science cooks what cooks lasagnas.
Say again, Brian.
Science cooks lasagnas.
I do occasionally cook it in a microwave, so that would be science. That's correct.
That's horrible.
Have any of you seen Bob the Science Guy's debunk of the Black Swan? Have you seen that?
Go on, lay it on us. No, but go on.
He says, right, because at the far platform, the 9.4 mile platform, he says he can't see, there's some cross section there or some boat ramp or something like that he can't see. And he said, that means, get this, that means that's been covered by the cover, and the horizon we see behind it is only a false horizon.
Okay, shall I give the debunk to that in a few breaths?
Not geometric.
Not geometric, right. So, Bob, we only have one horizon, and the horizon in your geometric, begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator is physical. We only have one. Yours is geometric.
Is
he saying the curve of the Earth is before the horizon?
He's essentially saying
he just did the National Geographic. Was that who did that?
Correct.
With the flag.
That's correct. He's done a National Geographic and said, look, the geometric curve of the Earth is obscuring this flag on this boat, and not noticing that there's a horizon behind it. That's correct. He's doing a National Geographic idiocy move. Yeah.
Is Virus still here? Because this is the question I asked him yesterday. Is the horizon an Earth curve?
Yes, I'm still here.
So you just heard the back and forth that Chocolate, Brian, and Nathan had about Bob the Science Guy. Now, is the horizon Earth curve?
The horizon is a result of Earth curve. I don't know if people will actually consider it Earth curve or not, but I think the reason it's there is because of Earth curve.
What do you mean by result of Earth curve?
I'm gonna go dig up space.com real quick.
Of Earth curve, just like the way it sounds.
I know, but you're saying, as a baller, you believe in the sphere, so the boats go away. The Earth curve is blocking the bottom up first, right? Is that what you believe?
Yeah, apparent horizon can block apparent objects.
What?
Is the curve of your Earth supposed to be apparent, or is it supposed to be physical? Because now you're saying it's apparent.
No, the horizon is supposed to be apparent.
But
so you don't have a geometric horizon to block anything anymore then? You're back to optics now.
You just said it.
Wow.
Should
I just welcome you now to Flat Earth, or wait till later?
Why? For saying that apparent objects can disappear behind an apparent horizon?
No, for conceding that you don't have a geometric horizon.
The boat's apparent now?
Horizon. Did I say that?
Is the boat apparent?
Why
is the boat apparent?
In my mouth?
Virus, is the boat apparent?
Can you at least go by just what I say and not add stuff?
Okay, repeat what you've said.
Is the boat apparent?
Hold on, 10th. Say it again then, Virus. Go ahead.
Apparent things can disappear over an apparent horizon. I never said we don't have a geometric horizon.
We only have one horizon, Virus.
You only see one horizon. That's the difference.
Right. That's right.
We have multiple horizons.
Sorry, you're saying we have multiple horizons. By definition, a horizon is an apparent position. So when you keep saying, well, we've got an apparent horizon, that's redundant. It's the apparent position where the sky meets the ground or sea. We only have one of those, and you're telling us how it isn't the geometric Earth curve edge that would be a horizon on a sphere. That's what a sphere horizon is, a geometric limitation to your view.
Wrong.
My bad.
Wrong.
My bad. My bad. So on a sphere, you'd have a geometric limitation to your view. The edge of the sphere getting in the way of stuff that goes over it at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That's what's asserted with your geometry. And you're telling us how we haven't got that. So we haven't got a sphere horizon.
No,
You would have a sphere horizon if you were on a sphere, though, and you're telling us how we haven't. And we've only got one.
Okay, well, I didn't say any of that. I'm not even implying any of
because you
that.
don't
What you just said
understand
a
what you're
while
saying.
ago. You only see one horizon, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with seeing one horizon, 'cause that's the way it's supposed to be on a globe too.
Do,
So
do you think there are horizons that you can't see?
yeah, I can't see a radar horizon.
Hold on, just one sec.
I can't see a
This started
sonar
off, sorry to
horizon.
interrupt, Varus. This started off with a problem that was raised by somebody pointing out that Bob the Science Guy has asserted that there's a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, that would be Earth curve, obscuring the bottom of the platforms, but there's a horizon behind them. Yeah? So he's saying, no, we've got two horizons. You know, contrary to what we've been told in rebuttal, that the horizon that's geometric's refracted, therefore no longer geometric, he's saying two of them. And the way we responded, or what you were asked to comment on, was what we've now got on screen for the audience, which is National Geographic claiming that the flag on the back of this boat is being obscured by the horizon, in spite of the fact that there's a horizon behind it. So you're saying, okay, that's cool, we've only got one horizon. That's your words that I'm quoting back to you, just in case you decide to
I
flip-flop.
didn't say that.
My bad, still talking. So just so you
Get it
don't
right.
flip-flop.
I'm gonna inject if you're wrong, just like
No, you can wait till I've finished rather than fundy muting my conclusion. So you've said we've only got one horizon. Yeah, we'd agree, that's a fact by definition. But yet both Bob and in this case National Geographic are showing examples claimed to be Earth curve when there's a second horizon behind it. And we've only got one, according to you, and factually by definition.
you only see one. It's not the same as we only got one.
Well, in this picture by National Geographic, there's two, according to their assertion, that it's not an angular limitation to the bottom of the flag, it's Earth curve getting in the way of it. And yet there's a horizon behind it. So they're asserting Earth curve blocking bottom of flag, but there's also a visually obvious horizon behind it, the actual horizon, that would be. So there's a horizon that we can actually see, and it's not the thing blocking this flag. But they're asserting it is. So they're saying two, and so is Bob. Ludicrous, because we don't have two horizons.
Okay, I
Cyrus,
also agree. You
did
don't
you just
see
say you could
two
only see
horizons.
one, but we
You
have two?
more
How do you
than
know
one
there's two?
horizon though as well. So it's two different. It's two different things saying you see one horizon and we only got one horizon. They're not the same thing.
No, you can
Well,
only
Virus,
have
if you
one
can't,
horizon. A horizon is
You want to
a
define horizon?
singular position where the sky meets the land or sea. What do you mean you can have multiple positions where the sky meets the land or sea? That's absurd. No, you cannot.
How
If you
is
only
that
have
a
one
whole?
apple,
I told
you can only
Hold on.
see one
Tim what
apple.
I
How
did.
is
Hello, maybe
They
5
how
people
is
they
should
that?
actually
respond rather
did
than
send you a
Virus.
new flyer without you having to
How is
send those back.
Yeah,
With
I
their
think
tip.
maybe you should all rumpus
Sweet.
Virus responding.
He knows all about these different companies, so I'm trying to find out from him if I'm going to get any problems from Craftsman, Mac, Snap-on about switching out my tools, because that's what they do, like their lifetime
Oh,
warranty.
great.
So
You want to go on mute, buddy?
even if it's your own problem, like if you busted a socket, they'll still replace it.
what are you talking about, guy?
He's having a
Ryan? What are you
conversation
talking
and
about,
he's not
dude?
even realizing it.
Ryan, what you talking about?
Ryan, I don't know what's going on.
The guy was talking about tools and replacing tools when Virus is supposed to answer your question.
My bad, guys. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
No, you good, Ryan, bro.
Don't let it happen again.
That's you.
Don't worry, I'll
Sorry,
take Neil out.
is it fair to say that the horizon is an optical illusion or not? Am I wrong?
Well, that's not the point
The
we're focusing on.
horizon-
We're focusing on the fact that we've only
Okay,
got
but it-
one. By definition, there can only be one.
Yeah.
Right. So we've only got one horizon, and it's not geometric. But on a globe, it would be.
No,
So we're
it's
not on a globe, or we'd have a geometric horizon.
Right.
On a
I
globe,
agree,
it's
but
even a apparent horizon. That's what you see on the globe is the apparent horizon. You don't see the geometric horizon. The apparent horizon comes from the geometric horizon. That's how
Try
it
again.
works on the globe.
You're an idiot.
Oh,
Guys,
back to you.
Jesus,
Here we
do
go.
we need your
it doesn't.
interjection, Neil, saying he's an
No,
idiot
it
when I'm trying to
doesn't.
bloody hear him?
Go ahead.
Hold your tongue! Virus, you've just told us we don't have a geometric horizon. Well, you would have one on a globe, therefore we're not on a globe. Or you'd have a geometric horizon, you haven't.
Why would you have one?
Because that's what globes have, geometric horizons, as asserted in your begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, where there is a point marked with an X and labelled horizon.
But then you would also say at the same time that since it's geometric, we should be able to go out and stand on it, right? But then wouldn't the moment that you stood on it, the horizon would be in a different place?
It's apparent based on your height at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. There
Okay, so
would
the
be...
horizon would move.
My bad.
I don't care about the math, Nathan.
My bad.
All you had to
A
do was
third
answer
attempt
yes
to
or
respond
no.
to you. What's going on? Bundy, globe believer, perhaps? Yeah, I've given the parameters.
I don't care about the math. I was just asking yes or no. You didn't have to go into a spiel like you always do.
So do you want to go then? Do you want to listen to my spiel? Go away. That's what I do here. My show, you idiot.
Well, you made my point. You made my point. You call it a geometric that you can mark with an X and stand on. But then if you're standing on it...
Did I say stand on it?
Location, so it's
Sorry,
not
did I say stand
geometric.
on it? Or are you just deciding that you're going to misrepresent what I've actually said?
Oh, I'll misrepresent what you said. Okay, go please.
But
Try to
that's your
explain the
claim.
geometric mark it with an X horizon. Please, go ahead.
Yeah, that's correct. In your globe maths, if you're a globe believer, it's marked with an X labelled horizon in your maths. That's correct. It's labelled horizon. Now, that is a geometric horizon asserted to be a horizon. Now, what is a horizon? Well, it's a demarcation point between the sky and land or sea. That's what a horizon is. And according to your maths, that's what your horizon is. But we're continually told that that is not the horizon we see, but it is the horizon in globe maths. So we don't see the horizon that's asserted to be a sphere edge horizon in the globe maths, and we do see a horizon that isn't that. So the horizon we see isn't a globe horizon. So it's not a globe horizon. Well, we'd have one if we were on a globe, simple as.
Yeah, that's weird, bro. That was weird. What you just said didn't make no sense. That was weird.
Not at all.
It's your claim. It's your claim, guys. You're the one.
That is not our claim.
No, it's
I just want one.
That what you just
Virus.
said was
Okay, Virus,
weird
thank
because
you.
that is not
I'm
our
trying
claim.
to trust the other guy now. There's lots of prolonged silences from you now, so can you just give way to the other guy? Not
You
at
say the
all, you
same
say.
thing, so you do
What,
that.
what not at all? What, you wouldn't have a geometric horizon on a globe? Welcome to Flat Earth.
That's not what he
Backs in the
said.
back.
Solaris?
The
No.
horizon is always apparent. It's always a certain distance away from wherever you're standing. Like you said, observer height, blah, 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 blah. I can't continuously walk in one direction and continually get closer to some geometric horizon point. There's no way for you to do that at all.
Okay.
Standing on a sphere, there's no way to do that.
And who said you could? Are you just going to keep going with this straw man that you're going to burn? Because I didn't say you could. It's the second time you've attempted
Then why
to
are
burn
you
this.
trying
You're
to
going to talk
get
straight
it
through me?
in
Talk straight through.
geo-
I would talk straight through me while I point out this is the second time I've pointed out this is a straw man you're burning. Because I didn't say you could stand on it. I pointed out where it was marked in the globe maths. I didn't say you could stand on it. That's a straw man you seem to want to burn, even though I pointed it out twice.
Continuously moves.
And you're going to
Why
talk
does it-
through me summarising me pointing out the straw man that you're burning by talking through it, right, Fundy? Take it you're a globe believer, right, Fundy? Because you're talking straight through the top of me.
They're not geometric.
Yeah, you're going to talk straight through the top of my responses and ignore them?
I am, because I heard...
Yeah, you are. I know. You're just a wanker who's got a globe belief, so I'm going to have a good laugh at you. Yeah, we've only got one horizon. It's not the horizon marked in globe maths. Now, I didn't say I could stand on that non-physical, mathematical horizon that I described. You seem to want to burn that like I've said we can stand on something in maths. No, I'm saying the thing in your maths, if you're a globe believer, is marked with an X labelled horizon and isn't the one we see. So the one in your globe maths isn't the horizon we see, so it's not the one in your globe maths. Well, that's what it would be if it was globe, because that's what globe maths say it would be, and it isn't. It's just that simple.
Well,
No,
that says it's a certain distance from you, which gives you the apparent horizon.
All our horizons are apparent. That's redundant. You're stupid. If you don't understand that a horizon's an apparent location, you're thick.
X fucking call it
Don't swear at me, you dumb globe-believing idiot. By definition, all horizons are apparent. It's redundant. You're thick. Keep using these redundant terms because you're stupid.
But can I ask something though? He's laughing at the notion of standing on it, but you guys believe in the story that ships disappeared behind this thing.
Flat
So you're
Earth
laughing at
logic.
your own story, bro. What are you doing?
Hold on, Chocolate. I think he wants to share his pain and start telling us what we feel and how we are. Go on then, share your pain.
Geometric when it's all apparent. Okay.
Geometric has to be physical, and you guys are not understanding the word appears is what
Where do you think
apparent means.
where do you think the apparent horizon comes from?
Hold on, dude. Do you realize your geometric horizon would have physical limitations to it, right?
Yeah,
Because
but not the
all
apparent
horizons are
horizon.
Sorry, the physical limitations of a sphere edge horizon would block boats and stuff. With its physicality, that's its geometry.
And it does.
My bad. Maybe this should be interrupted by a triggered fundy who knows that his globe belief's dying before his eyes. Yeah, I'd definitely talk through this too. Yeah, so it's asserted that the physicality and geometry of the sphere edge that we don't have, that you keep telling us we haven't got, is claimed to block boats and buildings with its physicality. Now you're saying it's apparent. Well, that's fascinating. All horizons are apparent. Yours is asserted to be geometric and capable of physically blocking stuff. It doesn't. We haven't got a geometric horizon. You keep telling us that and then raging through me when I point it out. Yeah, the horizon we experience definitely isn't a physical geometric sphere edge. It needs to be if we're on a sphere. We're not. Or we'd have that sphere edge horizon, and we haven't. You keep telling us how it isn't that, and then inserting this redundant term apparent, because you're thick. Don't understand what horizon is. Otherwise, you wouldn't use this term apparent, because all horizons are apparent. That's redundant.
Hey, Solaris, did you notice how he said that he would actually talk through it too if it's devastating to him? So every time he...
So he gives a shit, Virus. We've only got one horizon, and the horizon in your begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator is geometric and claimed to be physically blocking boats and buildings and shit. Now you want to talk about whether or not I've spoke through him? I couldn't give a monkey's. Yeah, this chanting fundy thinks that he can chant through me and then change the subject into whether or not I've spoke through him. I'll do as I damn well please. And what I please is telling you how we haven't got a geometric horizon to block boats and buildings. And you're telling me it, aren't you, Virus?
You have nothing to back that up.
Yeah, we do. It's called the Black Swan. It's on screen now from National Geographic. According to them, 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet would be where this flag's being obscured by an angular limitation. And yet there's a horizon behind it. On screen for my audience is emphatic proof that we do not have a geometric horizon. This was provided to us by a very credible source, National Geographic, disproving physical geometry because we don't have a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon in this image provided by National Geographic. I have proven it.
Do you have a picture of the geometric...
Yeah. I've got a picture of your dying globe. It's on screen provided by National Geographic.
It's devastating.
I'm not clicking on your YouTube channel, Nathan. You can.
I don't give a shit what you're doing. You seem to think I've got some concern about what you're doing or thinking. You, to me, are just a mong. Like, inconsequential to my general day. Whether or not you leave here believing that you've got science that's actually maths, or horizons that are apparent, and you don't need geometric physical obstructions for this flag to be blocked by, claimed by National Geographic, when there's a horizon behind it debunking them. You can rage through all of that, and I couldn't care less.
Can we see that
Right.
picture in main chat?
You see what now?
Share the picture. You said it's live. Share the picture.
It's National Geographic's picture where they went out to the beach with a load of flat earthers and claimed a stripy flag was being obscured by a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, not noticing that the actual horizon's behind it.
I've never seen it. Can you...
Oh, that's unfortunate. I couldn't give a crap what you've seen. You've seen the other Black Swan. It's not like you don't know what the Black Swan is, Virus. Playing dumb here won't change the Black Swan argument. We only need one. The fact that there's multiple Black Swans doesn't change the argument. The horizon's beyond the geometric limitations of a sphere, radius 3959, and when we point that out to you, you say we don't need a geometric horizon to block this flag as claimed by National Geographic. We don't need that geometry to block this flag. So why are National Geographic claiming that geometry's blocking the flag then? Oh, that's right, because they didn't notice there's a horizon behind it. They didn't notice it's a Black Swan.
Do you have a picture of the geometric horizon being further than it should be?
No, it can't be beyond its physical geometric limitations. You don't understand geometry. You can't inflate a ball and have it physically, geometrically beyond where it's supposed to be. That's absurd. It would be set in stone, you dumb shit.
That means your motor.
Sorry, you can't move a physical hill to a different position to show that you can physically move a hill. You're an idiot.
Duh, Nathan. That's the whole point of the Black Swan.
Yeah, that's the point of the Black Swan argument. You can't move physical geometry, and yet your horizon's in a different position. Debunking the physical geometry? What, are you going to throw that back like it's your argument, you dumb shit? Now that the Black Swan's sinking in, you think you can throw back the argument we've made to debunk your sphere? Like, oh no, we haven't got a physical sphere edge for a horizon, obviously, says Virus. Yeah, that's our argument, you dumb shit.
That's not even what I said, you dumbass.
Not even the same thing of what was said.
Solaris, what have you got to add?
Nathan?
One at a time.
Jesus
Solaris or
Christ,
Virus?
Nathan, you are
Who wants
really
it?
having some hard time.
Sorry,
today,
Solaris, you're just going to chant through everyone. I'll just talk to Virus. He seems more reasonable. Shocking to say.
Virus said there's two horizons, but we can't see one of them. I just want to know how you got to that point.
It's nonsense. Horizons are
One
apparent
is
by
math
definition.
and one is optics. It's not nonsense. One is math and one is optics.
Sorry, apparent. Do you know what apparent means? It means you can bloody see it. You're going to
Optics.
tell me it's maths
That's
when
op-
apparent means you can see it? You've babbled on about how it's apparent. Well, if it's apparent, you can see it. But what? It's not apparent, we don't see it now. It's only in maths. So it's not apparent then.
That's optics.
Oh, welcome to Flat Earth. Optics, you say? Yeah, that's right. But there's no optics accounted for in Earth curve maths, my friend. You stupid idiot.
Welcome to the globe, Nathan.
If you guys are saying the geometric horizon it can't be seen, that's a little weird because National Geographic, the same clowns that show you the flag, show you that's the curve of the Earth and with a horizon behind it, they say the local horizon, also called the geometrical horizon, is the visible boundary between Earth and sky. So your own side claims that it's visible, while you guys sit here and tell us it's not. So have fun with that.
No, it's worse than it's hang out virus. It's worse than that. They say they've never seen it, but they've measured it.
No. I'm not
Did
them
you get
chocolate.
that virus? You've never seen it, but you've measured it. Now tell me how that works.
I just told you one is where geometry says it is, and it does not move. It does not get closer. It does not get further. The apparent
But does it
horizon,
block?
which comes
Does
from
it
the
block?
geometric
all
horizon,
horizons?
is optics by itself. Do not talk through me, Ted, while I'm
Ah, you suck my balls. I'll do what I like. So, yeah, you're saying there's one that only exists in maths that we don't see, yet National Geographic are claiming it's blocking boats, and people claim it blocks buildings, but you're saying we can't see it? That makes no sense, Virus.
I'm not them. I'm sorry. So I don't know what they're talking about.
I'm saying that you're telling us something we can't see, geometric horizon only exists in maths. You appreciate that it's also simultaneously claimed to be seen blocking things, though, right?
I have no idea what that means.
Yeah, it's in the Earth curve maths where it's said to be blocking boats and buildings and shit. You guys claim there's a physical geometric horizon blocking boats and buildings, and you ask us to qualify how many feet and inches are missing? Is all this sounding unfamiliar to you? It's only sounding unfamiliar to you because you've just told us we don't see it, but it is definitely claimed to be seen, blocking boats and buildings. But you're also telling us we don't see it, Virus. Do you see the problem here?
I am about to tell you exactly what I told you earlier. The apparent horizon can block apparent.
All horizons are apparent. You're a dumb shit who doesn't listen.
Are you listening to what I just said?
You're not listening to me. Maybe project that straight onto me. Fifth time. All horizons are apparent by definition. The apparent, meaning you can see it, position where the sky meets the ground or sea. Apparent means you can see it. Now, you're telling us about how the apparent position where the sky meets the sea doesn't match with the non-apparent position in geometry. You're just stupid.
Not what I was saying.
Yeah, you were, because you said apparent horizon. You used the redundant term, same as that dumb shit Solaris did.
Saying that. Then what was my point then, Nathan?
That the apparent position where the sky meets the ground or sea doesn't match with the geometric physical limitation that's supposed to block boats and buildings, but you're telling us all about how it can't be seen and isn't the apparent horizon. So that makes no sense, because apparently the geometric horizon is supposed to be apparently blocking boats and buildings, and you're going to great lengths to tell us how we can't see that which is claimed to block boats and buildings. Now, the only reason you're telling us we can't see it, even though it's claimed to block boats and buildings, is because we've debunked it with the Black Swan. So you're telling us all about how we won't see this thing claim to block boats and buildings now. That's a big problem and a paradox for you, not me.
That was not my point, Nathan. That was not my point, Nathan. You completely missed my whole point just because you wasn't listening.
Oh, right. It's really just me not pinning my ears back while I repeatedly tell you that apparent is redundant and you ignore me. So my point is going to be obfuscated and said that, no, that's not the point you're making. Yeah, apparent's redundant. You're dumb as shit. That's my point.
Yeah.
You understand? Dumb shit? Now I'd like you to repeat back that apparent is redundant because you're dumb. I don't want to hear it again.
Yeah, you don't. Okay, you're dumb because.
Yeah, you're dumb. You think apparent, which is redundant when you're talking about an apparent position where the sky or ground meets. Yeah? That's apparently meaning you can see it. That's what a horizon is. So saying the apparent position where the sky meets the ground or sea is redundant. And I've told you multiple times, and you turn around, ignore it, and tell me I'm dumb or don't listen to you. No, you are thick as shit, Virus. You keep saying apparent horizon, which is redundant, you dumb shit. So I'm going to repeat it about enough times for you to understand that you're not listening to me until you repeat back that this use of the word apparent for horizon is redundant. Oh, you seem to be talking through me, Virus, to obfuscate this redundant word you keep using. Keep talking through it. Keep talking through me, don't you, scumbag, so you don't have to listen to the redundant word you've used.
I covered in linseed oil and baked it.
You're illustrating your point.
Linseed oil and baked it, so it's feel the protective coating.
Ryan, you got a hot mic.
Sorry, guys.
And Ackhamvirus, if you talk through his points again, guess what's going to happen to you? You friggin' retard. Now listen to what he says and then respond.
You gonna put your big boy pants on?
You want to
big boy?
away?
You mean changing the pants?
I'll try again.
Without leaving them?
Yeah, sorry, Virus.
Friggin' retard.
Hello.
QE, quit being dumb.
Yeah, that's what you want to do. Take it away from the point again. So you've managed to get QE on the hook. I've pointed out that you keep using this apparent. Going to talk through me again. Kick him out. Just kick him out. He's lost badly, so he's going to talk through every single rendition of the point. Every single one will be talked through because he's dead in the water. So when I point out that he's saying the apparent position where the sky and ground meet, or sky and sea meet, isn't required when he's got it simultaneously blocking boats and buildings. I say stop using this apparent term, it's redundant, and he tells me I'm not listening to him. Scum.
There's another scumbag. There's another scumbag, Solaris. He's about as dumb as a bag of hammers, aren't you, Solaris?
Yeah, we heard
Only
that.
according to you.
Yeah, only according to you, right? What's a hypothesis?
Not here to answer.
Yeah, right, you dumbass. I'll tell you what. Define curvature. I'll tell you what. Let's make it easy. Define curvature for us.
Why are you here white knighting for Nathan?
Yeah, right.
We were on a particular
Define
topic.
curvature for us.
Horizon. We are talking about the horizon.
All he wants to talk about is white knighting, people getting muted, how dumb QE is. He's been asked to define curvature. He's never going to do it.
We're here talking about a specific subject, and you.
We're not talking about the question you've been asked, so let's try quick, obfuscate onto something else, right, Solaris?
In front of his own fucking community.
So we weren't talking about curvature before then, huh? That's funny.
And he was not getting destroyed.
I'm not sure if he's a full bag of hammers because he can't nail the point now.
I don't even think they're
I can't.
Okay, well, I'll have a go. Let's see how reasonable this guy can be.
Flat Earthers are the one that obfuscate and white knight for each other.
Okay, let's try.
Especially YouTube personalities that like to.
Oh God, will you ever shut up? Off the track immediately. So you were another dumb shit, Solaris, that said apparent horizon.
Why are you ad-homing? I haven't called you a single name today. Why?
Really? Well, that's because you don't warrant calling me any names, you dumb shit that uses the word apparent when describing a horizon. Let's make it clear, Solaris. You're dumb, and I'm going to tell you so. Fact, you use the word apparent when describing a horizon, a redundant term, making you stupid.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. You have absolutely no cause whatsoever to call me names. You all do, and you're all thick. So when there's an opportunity to point out with demonstration that you call apparent horizons, that's stupid, and I will point it out till I'm blue in the face. You are thick, Solaris. I'm a flat earther and proud to tell you that when you make a mistake. Because you're arrogant, you think you're right about everything.
Geometric horizon is what the math shows it to be, but yet apparent horizon can be...
You did it again, you dumb shit! Apparent horizon is redundant, you dumb shit! How many times has this flat earther got to point out to this complete retard that the word apparent when describing a horizon is redundant? You're just stupid, Solaris.
Right.
Yeah, right, you are stupid. The apparent position where the sky meets the ground or sea. That's redundant, you dumb shit. You're just going to hum and mutter through me like Virus did. So we're at the same point that you white knighted for Virus, with you having used a redundant term and having been corrected by a flat earther, and all you can do is mutter through the top of me.
Is it right that the math...
Or ask a new question, dumb shit. So apparent, redundant, try and address it, you total coward.
Or no? Is it correct that the math horizon is...
Rams, can you shut up? Rams, you're making matters worse.
Does the math say the horizon is a certain distance away, yes or no?
You say it's apparent, that's redundant. You've ignored it because you're a
Does
coward,
the
being
math
educated by a
say-
flat earther, and as soon as I do educate you, you start talking through me because you're a coward. Like Virus, I'm on the same point. It was you that brought it up and used the term redundantly. Now I'm pointing it out and you can't do anything but talk through me.
Is a sir?
Yeah, talk straight through me, so you don't have to listen to how redundant your terminology was. Redundant, mate. You going to address that, you total coward?
So it only
You
exists in the
still haven't
math.
answered my fucking question. I've asked 3 times.
You're asking
You
if
just
your
wanna sit
model
here-
has a mathematical predicted point where the
Rams,
horizon should be?
I'm asking Nathan to basically clarify what he's already said.
Could I have a one-on-one with the Solaris, please?
No, I'm having a one-on-one with Nathan.
No,
As
you're
you
not.
destroy your own
Come on
argument.
here to talk with Nathan. If you want to have a conversation with me,
one-on-one with me for
get off of
5 minutes.
Nathan's show and me and you can have a talk face to face. I have no idea who you are. We can't talk
you're
when
not
I'm having to
allowing
listen
Nathan
to you
to speak, so
through
how can
Nathan.
you
So
have
let me
one-on-one
talk
with
to
him?
Nathan instead of you, please. Because Nathan
not a
seems to
one-on-one,
be
it's
this
not
higher
someone to speak,
authority
you know?
on this subject, so let me talk to him.
Well, no, you have one-on-one with me. You
Okay,
said
I'm
that
trying to have a conversation with
maths, yes?
someone who is supposed authority on the
surely-
subject.
Is
Please
measurement
stop.
You want to shut the fuck up
It'd be
real
all of
quick?
us. It'd be all of us.
It's okay. No.
No, no.
No, don't take the bait. That's what he wants to do. He wants people shouting it.
I don't
So
give a
Solaris,
fuck.
that means that these
Oh,
mathematics.
Jesus Christ.
That means that these
Dude,
mathematics
either
are based
answer
on
my
measurements, yes?
question or y'all aren't worth talking to anymore.
So
Just like
could
Star
you
Trails.
give me the measurement of
Bye.
this geometric horizon, how it was done, the process, please? The major mathematics.
Now you're going back on,
Oh my
now you're
god,
going back on
total
exactly what I
audio
asked for, which was
chaos.
the calculation. Does the calculation show that the geometric horizon should be X distance away from
Brian,
you? Does that
Brian,
show
Brian, I'm
yes
not going
or
to let
no?
you talk to him if you just constantly talk through him.
Yes or no?
Can't reasonably tell him to shut up when he talks through you if you just do it straight to him, Brian.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, that means shut up as well. Hello? Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, thank you, Nate. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, if there is mathematics, and he's claiming these mathematics as proof, then they have to be backed by a measurement. So could he run us through the process of the measurement of this geometric horizon, please?
He's gone. He left.
He ran away?
Well,
he wasn't allowed to continually Discord server mute everybody, so he's run away.
Gutless.
Yeah.
Yeah, because all he had was hanging on to mathematics. You know, he kept on saying, "Oh, the mathematics say this, the mathematics say that." Who cares? Show us the measurement that the mathematics are based on, and how was it done? Who measured it? Show us the process. What's step one? That's the end of that.
Well, one step better. Validate what your mathematics say. The curvature, the blockage has to happen by exactly the mathematics. And here we have the horizon well beyond where the curvature must start. So the mathematics are wrong.
Yeah, but that's why I went to the mathematics, because he was claiming them. So I asked him for, okay, these must be based on a measurement. Show us this measurement. What's the process? Who did it? What was step one? When was it done? There's nothing for that. Do you know what I mean? So you don't even have to go even to show. You don't even have to show them the black swan. You just have to go to there. That's the end of it, because there isn't anything for that.
Got my custom XLR cable in the post today. I'm really excited.
Glad you're wired. Back to Virus. Virus, you said there are multiple horizons.
He's not here.
But, oh, well, forget it. Well, he said there's multiple horizons, but we can only see one.
It's a problem.
Yeah,
But how does he know there's multiple if you can only see one?
That's what I held him to task on. That's what I was trying to hold him on task on, but obviously server muting from them and everyone biting on whatever hooks they throw out is the problem that obfuscates away from the point. When they say apparent horizon, they're trying to distinguish between a horizon that we see and a second not apparent horizon, violating the law of identity. It's an apparent location. That's what horizon is. But if they can distinguish between an apparent horizon and an apparent not apparent horizon, then they've got two horizons, and you don't need to see one of them. It's only in the maths. But it's a representation of the horizon we do see, and then they'll convolute it into how we do see a non-geometric horizon, because I've already got to beg the question of an apparent horizon. So when it fails is when you point out that you're separating out horizons by adding on redundant terms to give you two.
Should I read the definition of horizon again?
The apparent position where the land or sea meets the sky. Apparent, meaning you can see it. Position, meaning there it is. And sea, obvious. Land, obvious. Sea, obvious. The description's fairly simple. But then they add on, well, it's the apparent horizon. So let's go back to the definition. So it's the apparent position where the sky meets the land or sea. That's nonsense. The only reason it's there is because their geometric horizon, that used to block boats and buildings with its physicality, is now mysteriously not physical.
Funny enough, National Geographic, in their definition, they underline visible boundary between the earth and sky. Visible. They underlined it. It's you guys. That's your claim, that it's visible.
Yeah.
So why are you now telling us that it's not?
Well, it's like adding on an extra visible. It's the visible horizon.
But the one we're talking about is the non-visible visible horizon.
Exactly. The non-visible visible horizon is not visible in reality until we need to say it's blocking boats and buildings. But for now, because it's beyond the limitations of its physicality, debunking our assertion that it's physical, it's non-physical. But of course, as soon as something's squashed up in the distance in the foreground at an optical limitation, we'll call that Earth curve and say it's physically blocking it. And here's the geometry. But for now, it's not physical. We don't see the not actual position where the sky meets the sun or meets the sea or land. It's a not actual visible position. You're like, that's nonsense. Doesn't make sense. You can't be not actual and visible, geometric. That makes no sense.
When will the ballers hang on? When will the ballers realize that every time they start the sphere model of theirs, it's begging the question with a presupposition and all that goes with that. And then when they start invoking geometry, it puts lines into that thing, like distinct measurements have to happen. And when they don't have that, they got nothing. So they're defending a presupposition and they got no defense for it. And that's why both these guys sound like idiots.
It's an untenable position. I think they're starting to realize that. This is going to get worse before it gets better. There's going to be hordes of people wanting to ad hom everybody here soon.
Are you talking about when we just move to the after show and I disappear? Or do you mean that because of the prevalence of the black swan, more and more people will appreciate that they've got a non-physical position that used to block boats and buildings that now isn't physical anymore? Which one do you mean?
Well, the latter, and because of that, they will come here and attack the source of that pain. Well, not the source, but what they perceive as the source of that pain. So I think like the uptake and them coming in and ranting is just going to increase.
Yeah, but technically the source of that pain is their own side that tells them it's visible, while they come here and tell us it's not. It's their own side causing them pain.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
It's a contradiction from their own side. You're correct. So when they say, for example, we preface the conversation with the black swan. So if Earth's sphere, radius 3959, every distance to horizon can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And the black swan imagery shows the horizon beyond those geometric limitations. Therefore, you haven't got a geometric horizon. If you haven't got a geometric horizon, Earth's not a sphere with sphere geometry. Simple as that. And they say, no, that's a straw man. And you go, what is? You, as a flat earther, asserting that Earth with radius 3959 would give you a geometric horizon at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. That's a straw man. We don't say that. And then you go, is your maths saying it? This is your claim. But you're telling me because it's debunked, suddenly your claim of the physical geometry in the maths is actually a straw man. It's actually a claim I'm making as a flat earther that you don't make. Yeah, you do. You claim Earth's a sphere and it's got geometry, and here it is in your maths. Guess what the title of that maths is? Earth curve maths. So here's your Earth curve maths, and here's where you say your Earth curve is at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. But what, it's a straw man because it isn't there anymore to block boats and buildings. It's just, that's their pain. It's the contradiction that they feel that they need to tell us about until you start pointing out, like we did today with Virus and whatever his name was, Solaris. Well, you can't have a non-physical apparent position that's also simultaneously blocking boats and buildings. It doesn't work. You can't have it both ways.
Nathan, for a minute there, Virus sounded like a flat. For a minute there, Virus sounded like a flat earther, because he's doing the same thing as you and your reference frames are ruined. We never said the horizon is Earth curve, and now he's backing away from the geometric horizon, and he's saying there's. I mean, he says there's multiple, but when he talks, he's talking about obviously the one horizon we all see. And it doesn't match their geometry. So he's in that untenable situation, like John says. So he's like, he almost sounded like, I mean, we welcomed him to Flat Earth about 3 or 4 times. Just in that segment.
That's because he said there is no geometric horizon. Nobody's saying we would expect to see it, I think is how he said it. I'll have to trim it out and add it to the list. But he basically said
it was
we wouldn't.
Incredible.
Yeah, he basically said we wouldn't be expecting to. Nobody's saying we would expect to see a geometric horizon, I think is the exact I think I paraphrased him slightly. But that's his sentiment, right? Same as everyone else is what you're saying. Same as Tim Osman. Nobody claims the horizon is Earth curve. That's what he's saying. And then you go, yeah, you do. You claim it blocks stuff. Here's National Geographic claiming it blocks this boat, coincidentally with the horizon behind it. So you do claim we should see it. You've got maths to say how much it blocks stuff. But then they go into, I've got to chant through every word you say and call you an idiot from here on in. That's what they descend into when that happens.
But as you recall, when you reviewed the tape, when you review the tape, I asked him, is Earth curve, is the horizon Earth curve? And he said yes. And then he double spoke. Go ahead, Brad.
Got a word for that?
Yeah,
what?
worse than that. He asked Nathan more than one time. I'd say 2, if not 3 times. Have you got a photograph of the geometric horizon? He's asking you to prove the geometric horizon, but a photograph.
Not quite. He asked me, have you got a photograph of the geometric horizon, I assume is Earth curve horizon, at a non-geometric position? So the geometric horizon in a different position. I've paraphrased it because it needs to be paraphrased to give clarity to what he's asking. He's asking me to show a geometric horizon in a different position. Well, if it's a geometric horizon, it's a physical sphere edge horizon. And he's saying, show it me effectively as a bigger sphere. So I don't assume the horizon's a sphere. That's a burden of proof reversal fallacy. But he is, like Simon Dan, you and your reference frames are ruined, charging me with showing the claim we debunk in modus tollens. So he's saying, show me the geometric horizon, flat earther. I don't have one. That's your claim we're debunking, you complete idiot.
Yeah, show me where this non-visible visible horizon is beyond its visible limitation. That's what he said.
But they're calling the apparent like a proper noun, as though it's an actual thing. It's they don't understand the word appears is not a proper noun. So to call it an apparent location it's a lowercase apparent. It's not a higher case like a geometric horizon would have a capital G because it should be an actual location marked by an X.
Well, what he was doing when he was asking Nathan for a photograph of the geometric horizon, what he was actually doing is begging the question that there was a geometric horizon, but saying, you don't have a photograph of it, Nathan, because we can't see it, but it's still there. And that's why we have the apparent only horizon. So he was doing like a double begging. He was doing a begging the question.
What he was asking was, show me a picture of the geometric horizon where it's not supposed to be. So that's what he said. Not just show me a picture of the geometric horizon. Show me a picture of it where it's not where the math predicts it's supposed to be. That was his question.
Well, just change it just a little bit and say, show me Earth curve not being where Earth curve's supposed to be. So he could make the question of Earth curve fucking...
Precisely.
After I just told you that it's not, we can't see it.
Exactly. You all cobbled it together in the end. Exactly. So demand that I beg the question that we're going to have a geometric horizon. Then point out that you can't show me the assumed geometric horizon in a position geometric, as described by him, where it shouldn't be. So I've got, on my side, Nathan Oakley's side, an assumption of showing him the geometry is begging the question of, and I can't disprove it. Therefore, we then get the redundancy of the apparent horizon. We only get to see the apparent position. So we've got a second one. It's like, this is an absolutely useless attempt to introduce a second horizon that fails at the word apparent, because they've introduced it twice.
The reason it can't be seen or shown is because it's a thought experiment. It's not even real. This is the funny part about it. If it was real, it would be their #1 proof seed.
Does anybody think it's a coincidence they only started calling it apparent after the Black Swan?
Adding the redundancy, yeah, because they needed a second one. Till then, the horizon was just Earth curve blocking stuff, and they used to tell us how many feet and inches were missing. Then we showed it beyond its geometric limitations, and it's become an apparent position. And there's a second geometric one that isn't apparent. It's a non-apparent position where the sky meets the ground. It's just farcical. It's just been debunked, and they've got to introduce us a complete layer of doublespeak that's going to cause cognitive dissonance. I think John's right. That's why he's describing a queue of people that's going to eventually come, because their own side saying, look at the horizon, Earth curve, blocking this boat and building. They come here and we go, it's beyond the limitations of a geometric obstruction that would block boats and buildings. And they go, we never said it would block boats and buildings. And they short circuit.
Basically.
Yeah, I think John is right. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Maybe. Not for me. Maybe for them.
You remember when the Black Swan came on and we all gave our best guesses as to how long it would take the ballers to get it? I was so wrong. I was thinking like I think. These people aren't ever going to get it.
I can't remember who it was to give credit to, but somebody said, I think it was Chocolate actually, they can never get it. To get it is to become a flat earther. So the answer is never. If you're
that was John that said that. That was John that said that. He said as soon as any of them get it, John, father of a stolen child. As soon as any of them get it, means they're not a glober anymore.
Yeah, you can't get the Black Swan argument and remain a glober, basically.
Yeah, because
my prediction. Sorry, Ken.
Go ahead.
No, you go first. I'll say that.
Okay, yeah. Well, #1 thing, if I'm a baller, curvature is going to be my foremost #1 witness to my ball believing state that I'm in. I have to show curvature because I believe I live on a ball. And if I take Virus at his math, then it's the math of the globe, which is the 1.22 times. So it has to match. When it doesn't match, I have to decide, okay, it's not there where it's supposed to be. So I'll say I could never see it because it's refracted. And if I could never see it, I'm also in the bind because if I never saw it, how did I ever get the 1.22 measurement for it? So I'm really in a paradox and I'm screwed.
Not only can I not get the 1.22 square miles, every time one of my compadres on the globe side asserts that it's blocking things with its physicality and geometry, I've got to remember that I mentioned that it wasn't ever going to be seen. It's a refracted, non-geometric horizon that only exists in the maths when we assert it to be blocking stuff. But there it is, being asserted by your own side to be blocking stuff with its physicality and tangent points that you haven't got anymore. It's just devastating cognitively to Globers. The Black Swan, yeah, I think you're right. From their side, it can only get worse as they brace against it more and more and descend into cognitive, what's the word? Pain. That's all they're doing, descending further and further into cognitive nonsense that leaves them in pain. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and hopefully becoming a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!